So I love the way he was able to talk through his game plan in game. You don't see that very often out of a young guy. So very impressive. And Dobbins, you've been wanting to get him up here for a longer stint just because he's a real competitor and has some real pitch ability, and he needs to have an opportunity up here and get feedback from big league hitters and make adjustments. So this is great to be able to do that because both those guys, man, they're going to be a part of our future.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Good start last night for Hunter Dobbins against the New York Yankees. Now, they lose the game, but let's be honest, Alex, the wins and the losses at this point just aren't all that important. Kind of a perfect game for the Cardinals.
Yeah, competitive, and you still potentially get a top pick.
6 1/3 innings from your starter and Hunter Dobbins. He's a young player. He's going to be a part of the future. Gives you 4 strikeouts, only the 2 earned runs, both coming on solo shots. One, George Lombard Jr.,
cool. That was cool.
Who, in his first career hit, gets a home run for the Yankees. So a really solid outing for Hunter Dobbins.
Yeah, when's he headed down? No?
We'll talk about that here momentarily.
We don't gotta,
you don't need to worry about that anymore?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
No.
Sweet.
I think he's one of the most important Cardinals the rest of the way, Alex. I think it's a pretty strong argument because this is a guy we just don't know how he's going to perform at the major league level. It's been solid so far, 3.5 ERA in his major league career here with the Cardinals. But I want to see it. I want to see what it looks like every 5th day because, let's be honest, the numbers are strangely better here than they have been at AAA. He's been more effective when he's been up with the big league club. I just want to see what this looks like long term. Kind of similar to how we got to see an extended stretch last year with Michael McGreevy, and it gave us the confidence. Okay, yeah, that guy should be a starter for the Cardinals, written in pen every 5th day in 2026. I think the same thing could be true for Hunter Dobbins based upon the way that he finishes the 2026 campaign for 2027. Who else do you guys have your eyes on the rest of the way? Because the expectations at this point have changed. The reality of the season has set in. It is no longer about watching the standings, and it is more about watching the potential star-level talent that can emerge through your system. So who is it on the Cardinals, Alex, that you're most excited to watch the rest of the season?
For me, there's 2 guys. It's Ivan Herrera and it's Jimmy Crooks. And the reason that I'd say those 2 is because I think those 2, which seems odd to say with Herrera, but I think those 2 are playing for a spot on this Cardinals roster. And it's why I don't look at Hunter Dobbins in the same light as you, because I feel like Hunter Dobbins is in that rotation next year no matter what. Because I think they're probably going to be trying to ship out some of the guys that are in it to kind of move this rotation along. But when I look at Jimmy Crooks or when I look at Ivan Herrera, I think there's still a lot to figure out with those 2 guys in terms of who are you for this Cardinals team? And in Herrera's sense, are you a long-term catcher for us? Are you a long-term different position? And for Crooks, can you stay at the major league level? Because with Rodriguez in AA and now with Leo Bernal in AAA, you do have some people kind of breathing down your back in the sense of trying to make the major league roster. So from here on out, I think it's seeing as much of those 2 players as possible at the catching position and what you do offensively as everyday players, because to me, those are important in terms of what you mean for the Cardinals long term.
Yeah, I would say for me, Ivan Herrera is number 1 and clear-cut number 1 because he came out right out of the gates and looked awesome. I mean, we talked about his slump in, what was it, May? It's like, man, this guy's just not hitting for average, but he's on base at like a 380 clip. It's insane. And he had a great start to the season. Since June 15th, guys, in 44 games, he's hitting below 200, has a higher on base than he has a higher slugging percentage.
What is his OPS in that stretch?
His OPS in that stretch is 570 in 44 games. His on base.
That's Pedro Baez numbers.
Yeah, his on base 287 is higher than his slug at 283. I mean, to me, he is the number 1 guy I'm watching in the second half because he's talked about, hey, look, I went to Driveline during the All-Star break, something with my mechanics got off. Okay, I can hear that, and that sounds like it might be a reason for why the numbers really took a dip, and maybe, throughout a long baseball season that can happen. Can you write that, though, in a season is a very important question, and this is what we talk about all the time when we would talk about Jordan Walker early on this season. The best players in baseball, they all go cold. Everybody in baseball goes cold for a while. Best players in baseball are able to snap out of it pretty quickly, though, and Herrera is still looking to snap out of it. So he's the number 1 guy I would circle. Walker would be number 2. I think he's ultimately going to be fine, but he's had a weird start since the All-Star break, and he's not doing much damage over the last, month or so. Those would be the top 2 guys for me. On the pitching side, the guy I wanted to see was Quinn Matthews. So I'll see him in about 15 days, and then I'll be able to tell you about what I think of him.
And you'll be happy about it.
When he's up here, yeah. Not happy for about another 14 days.
I've got a clear-cut top 4. You ready for the BK build-up?
No.
You want to go 1 to 4 or 4 to 1?
Ta-da!
You guys want a 1 to 4 or a 4 to 1?
It doesn't matter, man.
Or
They're all
4 to
bad.
1. Number 4, Kyle Leahy. I'm genuinely curious what the next few weeks, couple of months looks like for him. I don't think there's a whole lot of downside. Like, Kyle Leahy's probably going to be a starter for you next year.
I think you could write it in pen for next year.
Agreed. But, like, just to prove the doubter, BK, wrong, I want to continue to see it. I need to continue to be reinforced every 5th day. This guy's not only a starter, but he's a legitimately good starter. So far this year, he has shoved it down my throat repeatedly. Like, it's been wildly impressive. 107 innings, 3.4 ERA. I thought there was zero chance of that happening for Kyle Leahy this year. Now, the underlying numbers do not match what that is. But the same thing is true for Michael McGreevy, and I'm able to buy in on Michael McGreevy. I get excited when he's on the mound for the Cardinals every 5th day. I don't feel that way about Kyle Leahy, and that's unfair to him, honestly. Because the numbers would suggest just the actual results, and eventually that stuff has to matter. Guy's been awesome. So I want to continue to see that over the next 2 months. He's at number 4 for me. Number 3, Hunter Dobbins. We've already talked about it. I'm curious to see how he fits into their future. I don't think there's a ton of upside here, but I think he can be a really solid back end of the rotation starter. Could he give you the confidence based upon his final 2 months to move on from Andre Palante this offseason, to trade Matthew Liberatore, or to move Matthew Liberatore back to the bullpen? I think Dobbins is the one that could unlock something like that with the roster. Number 2, Jordan Walker. I don't think there is a ton of like real concern here about him being a good big leaguer. I think we are now in a spot where he's going to be good. What is the level of good? That's up for debate. That's up for discussion. His first half looked like a potential superstar. Give him all of the money. Give him the $250 million. It's worth every penny. His second half is why you don't. His second half so far is showing you all of the cautionary tales of, yeah, but there's still some questions about, can he get the ball up in the air regularly? Can this guy continue to maintain that power performance that we saw in the first half of the season? So far, the answer's been no. I'm not overly concerned about it, but it is something to keep an eye on, and I want to see that get back on track in the second half. And number 1, what you guys said about Ivan Herrera. It's not so much the bat for me. I think his bat's really good, and we've seen that over the course of multiple seasons. Very curious about position. Can he be a long-term catcher for you? If the answer is yes, it makes some questions emerge about Jimmy Crooks, Leo Bernal, what the future is for Rainiel Rodriguez, all of that stuff. If the answer is no, does the bat play well enough as a designated hitter to bet on that long-term here? Does the bat play well enough at first base that you're willing to move on from Alec Burleson because you want to continue to have Ivan Herrera's bat in the lineup as a righty? Those are questions that at some point you're going to have to answer, whether it's the offseason or next year. But Ivan Herrera, to me, I agree with you guys, is the number 1 player to monitor the rest of the year, both offensively, but in my opinion, even more importantly, what he's able to do as a defender behind the plate.
Yeah.
There's my BK buildup.
I would say the bat's more important for me for Herrera than it is his defense. I don't think he's a catcher. Now, the Cardinals may disagree with that, and they may value or take the final 2 months here to evaluate him behind the plate. I just don't see a guy that can't throw out a base runner as a catcher. Now, I do think he's the best of the blockers behind the plate, but that's kind of a low bar when I've watched Crooks and Pius behind the plate so far. That's why I say the bat's more important, because it plays into what you're saying of what they do with him positionally of, okay, is his bat good enough to make him part of the core and force potentially somebody like a Burleson out? Or is his bat good enough to just say, you know what, let's just make him an everyday DH, or good enough to make us live with his deficiencies behind the plate? That's why the bat is the bigger question for me, because yes, he's been good the last couple of seasons for the Cardinals. Hitting kind of goes just like pitching, right? I mean, look, I haven't expected like a guy like Josh Naylor to fall apart this year. I didn't see Cal Raleigh not being able to hit this season, and there are some underlying metrics that are very alarming for Ivan Herrera. He's not hitting the ball as hard this season. So his bat would be the thing that I am circling when I'm evaluating him. On the pitching side, I agree with the Kyle Leahy one. Dobbins, I would have in my top 5. I would throw another arm into that.
Please.
Luis Gastelum would be one that I would be monitoring over the next 2 months. Now, my take on bullpen arms. Some people you talked to around the organization thought he could be one of their best bullpen arms when he got up here. Yep. I haven't seen that yet since he's gotten up here, but that is a rookie learning at the big league level.
Here's my question.
I'm fascinated to see what he looks like.
I agree. I'm interested to see what it looks like. I don't know that there's a whole lot of like stakes attached to what he does.
And I don't think I learned anything. If he's great down the stretch, it doesn't mean anything to me because I saw Matt Swanson awesome down the stretch last year, and look at where he started.
I don't think it really changes anything for the offseason. I'm not disagreeing with your overall take that he's interesting to watch. I agree. I want to get eyes on him. I want to see how his stuff plays. Like for Ivan Herrera, I think it could change and alter what your offseason is. Yeah. I think for Jordan Walker, if he's great the rest of the year, I think it might be more likely that they give him a contract extension. For Hunter Dobbins, if he's great the rest of the season, it might unlock trading one of Liberatore or Palante. For Kyle Leahy, it might also continue to give them that kind of confidence that they can have him in there instead of an Andre Palante. By the way, somebody on the text line said, why would you trade Palante right now? He's been really good. Two things. One, he's starting to get a little bit more expensive. Two, he's running out of club control. And I guess as a third here, he's valuable on the trade market in an offseason where other pitchers are going to be expensive to fill the same kind of role that he has.
Fourth, your pipeline is stacked with pitchers.
There you go.
Like there's just not enough spots for all of these bodies. You need to start moving out, and you trade a guy who's valuable around Major League Baseball if you have a replacement that you believe can fill that spot for you.
I will say this. I was having a tough time coming up with a fifth guy on my list, so Gastelum is as good as anybody.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't think there's anything attached stake-wise to J.J. Weatherholt. I want to watch him. I'm excited to see what it looks like, and he has not been the same hitter over the last few weeks, but he's going to be your starting second baseman. He's going to play every day the rest of the way this year and for hopefully the next decade.
Yeah, that's fair on the Gastelum front, and if we're going off of their stakes as to their roster spot here as well, then I would probably replace him on my list then with Jimmy Crooks, because I would agree with Alex. I do think he's potentially playing to try and dethrone potentially a Pedro Pages to remain here, because Bernal, I think, will be here next year. So you've got Bernal, and then it's a question of, do we have Herrera as the backup behind Bernal? Do we have Jimmy Crooks as the backup behind Bernal? Or do we stick with Pedro Pages as the backup behind Bernal?
Can I give you one other X factor that could be thrown onto this list?
Cesar Prieto.
No, God, no.
The Ferminator.
Blaze Jordan. Are you going to get an opportunity next year to be the starting third baseman? I think you could, but it's going to require him to be a little better offensively.
Well, who's pushing him out, though?
Well, they might make a signing, right? Like they could make the Ramon Urias signing of this year.
Pick up Urias' option.
Right. But if Blaze Jordan is solid offensively, I think he's been okay defensively. Not great, but fine. And if he picks it up offensively for the remainder of this season, I think there's a way that you could convince yourself if you're Chaim Bloom, like, hey, let's go ahead and give this guy a chance. Let's see what it looks like. There's really no downside to it in terms of the money. And there's at least a little bit of upside that could be there. And maybe Jesus Baez midway through next year pushes his way onto the major league roster the way that Joshua Baez is trying to do this season. But for right now, I think Blaze Jordan is one that could earn himself onto the roster next year as a starter. I think he's going to be here in one way or another next season. But I think right now the more likely scenario is he's like a utility infielder. If he's good the rest of the way offensively, I could see them saying, hey, let's go ahead and pencil him in. Not pin, but pencil him in as a starting third baseman for the Cardinals in 2027. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's 11:16. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. If you guys would like to get involved in the show, you can do so at 314-399-9646. You can also check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Keith Law joins the show once again. Going to learn about the new Cardinals in their system. 4 guys that they were able to add. 2 pitchers from the Diamondbacks, 2 hitters, 2 outfielders from the Brewers. What will they add to the Cardinals system? We'll ask Keith Law about that coming up in 15 minutes. But next, hey, Alex.
Hey, Brandon.
Jeremy Rutherford had some numbers on what a Jimmy Snuggerud contract could look like for the Blues this offseason. We'll pass those along. Get your thoughts on it next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. Do so with my friends over at Victory Men's Health. When you walk in, it almost feels like family going in there. You see the same smiling faces each and every time. They're going to help you unlock your inner champion. They are there to put together a personalized plan for you. If they can do this for me, they can certainly do it for you. Check them out today. VictoryMen'sHealth.com is the place where you can go to read all about what they have to offer, whether it's their services, including testosterone optimization, what they can do to help you with weight loss goals, sexual health, red light therapy programs. That's all over there. I use their supplement shop as well. You can go over there. They can help you supplement whatever it is that you're low on, some of those deficiencies. They can help you out at Victory Men's Health. Book your first appointment today online. Again, VictoryMen'sHealth.com is the place where you go to find it. Put in your name, email, phone number. Tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion today. It's a super easy process. They're going to help you regain that form. You will be able to unlock your inner champion with Victory Men's Health online at VictoryMen'sHealth.com. Hey, good work by Jeremy Rutherford earlier today over on The Athletic. You can hear him, by the way, right?
Yeah.
On the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. I was about to say that and then realized, I don't know. I did not see JR today, so I'm not sure.
Your intrusive thought caught up to you mid-sentence there.
Got there just in case. But yes, you can see Jeremy Rutherford, as well as me and Donnie, our beautiful faces, over on the Last Minute Blues podcast later on this afternoon up on our YouTube channel.
YouTube.com/101ESPN STL. By the way, we had a nice little meeting this morning with the sales staff. If you guys are interested in learning about all of the sales opportunities over on the YouTube page,
Get in while the getting's hot.
Last Minute Blues podcast, Redbird Report, or hell, BK and Ferrario. Reach out to one of Alex, T-Bone, or myself. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. Okay, so Jeremy Rutherford had a piece on what the going rate could be for a Jimmy Snuggerud contract extension. Snuggy's under contract for this year. It's not a pressing matter. However, next offseason, he is a restricted free agent, and as we've seen across the league, that can get a little dicey nowadays. His projections, based upon Dom's model and some of these third-party publications, were the following, Alex. 3-year deal at roughly $6 million AAV, 5-year deal at about $7.5 million, or a 7-year, $10 million deal. That's kind of the going rate based upon what the market factors are out there right now. Again, longer term means more money because you're buying out more years of free agency. 3 at 6 per, 5 at 7.5 per, or 7 at $10 million per year is what he had to say in here. Let's start out with that. If those were your options for the Blues right now, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. 1, would you want to get one of those done today? And 2, which of those would you be prioritizing?
Yes, I would try and get one done today because I think Jimmy Snuggerud's only going up. I don't think he's going to go backwards with his development, especially if who he's going to be playing with and just seeing the player he is. I'd go the 5 years, $7.5 million. I'd like to try and go 6 to see if I can get 6 by 8.5 because I think if you were to do that now, that lines up with everybody else you've locked up. You get him to 6, he's expiring in 2032. 1 year after Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich, Dylan Holloway, Mason McTavish, Broberg, and McMichael still under contract. Like, you're lining them up with your entire core. But if you go 5 years, you're lining them up with Robert Thomas. And I think at $7.5 million, if he's going to continue to have the seasons that I believe he's going to have, I think this guy can score 30 to 40 goals in a season. I think he could be a 70 to 80 point player. At $7.5 million for the next 5 years, that's a steal. So I'd go 5 by 7.5.
That's where I am. I'd probably settle in that middle one there at the 5 by 7.5. I thought for a minute about going the real long term, 7 at 10. though I believe in Jimmy Snuggerud, I don't know if I want to make that big a bet right now and also make him the highest paid player on the Blues by an AAV perspective. I think right now I still want that to be Robert Thomas just because of the whole dynamic that could go on there. Now, I don't think much about that, but I know that's a thing, so I'll let that be. I think I'm going in the middle there. I would go 5 years, kind of make that your longer bridge deal at 7.5, and then, as Alex said, it kind of gets him closer to lining up with everybody else.
I'm not worried about that part. Like, if you have a bunch of contracts coming up at the same time, I actually think that could be a bad thing, potentially, because then you've got to re-sign all of them simultaneously, and they're going to play off of each other and negotiate off of each other. I don't know that that's necessarily something I'm looking to accomplish, but in this scenario, I just think, like, in a vacuum, 5 years, $7.5 million makes the most sense for the Blues. You're buying out a couple of free agency years. You're getting him in at a totally reasonable number. And the other thing, this starts your window. Now you know, okay, over the next 5 years, we're pushing. We are trying to win with Jimmy Snuggerud and Robert Thomas and Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg, the last remaining years of Colton Parayko in his prime still. And we've got a ton of cap space to be able to work with. We have cost certainty with almost all of our players that are currently under contract. So that's the one that I would try to get with him. It saves you a couple $1,000,000 a year. That may not sound like a ton right now, but that extra $2 million might be the kind of thing that allows you to go out and get a winger, that can help you in your top six, or a defenseman that you really need, or that may pay for your backup goalie behind Joel Hofer. And that kind of excess value is pretty valuable over time. So I think I would go the 5 by 7.5. There's less downside to that. I think it's going to be hard for him not to be worth that contract over the 5 years. And there's huge upside to it. If he becomes the kind of player that we all hope that he can be, he's going to outperform $7.5 million on an AAV number by like next season.
Yeah.
That immediately becomes some kind of a steal for them. There were some interesting comparisons for Snuggerud, Alex. This is based upon Dom's model, which I'm sure you were excited to see.
Always. These are actually fun, though. I think this is one of the few things Dom does really well. I like looking at these models to see kind of how they view a certain player.
So I didn't have on my bingo card Alex giving Dom a compliment.
I know, right?
Well, there's some models that are fun. This one's one of them.
So this is based upon his performance, right? It's his style of play, the point production, all of that. And based upon all of that, the top comparisons in a good way for Jimmy Snuggerud are William Nylander, Mika Zibanejad, Phil Kessel, Nick Schmaltz, and Travis Konechny. This is based upon their performances at the same age as where you are seeing right now for Jimmy Snuggerud. Now, there are also some not so good comparisons for Jimmy Snuggerud. I'm going to be honest with you, Alex. I'm not super familiar with some of these names.
Yeah, I saw these and I was like, let's not look at these.
Max Comtois?
Yeah, he was a highly touted prospect with the Columbus Blue Jackets, I believe is where he was at.
Alex Galchenyuk?
Yeah, he was supposed to be the number one center for the Montreal Canadiens. I think they took him third overall, if I remember this correctly.
Wojciech Wolski?
Yes. Volsky.
Volsky, sure.
Wojciech Wolski. Yeah,
that's what I meant.
Yep.
That's what I was going for there.
That one's not good.
So those were three.
God, don't be that one.
Not so great comparisons for Jimmy Snuggerud.
Yeah, Galchenyuk was third overall by the Canadiens, and he was traded 6 years into the Arizona Coyotes.
What do you make of those?
Not a lot. I mean, the first thing I do is I look at the comps of the best case scenario, right? Like, that's what you do as a Blues fan because you hope that's true. And you see those names and you think, oh, well, if that's the case, then the Blues struck gold and this is where this team is headed, right? If you get Nylander, Zibanejad, or Phil Kessel, God, Phil Kessel being a comp is hilarious. That, to me, if you get that at $7.5 million for the next 5 years, your winning window starts the moment he hits that number. Because for $7.5 million for a guy that's probably worth 11 or 12 on the market, you're going to win. You do look at the not so good. The thing with those is I can understand because it's a small sample size and you look at the projection. I just go off of the way that they play and the style that they are, and he's none of those players. Like Alex Galchenyuk was a small centerman that was supposed to be a number one center. You never live up to that. I guess if you want that Wojciech Wolski is one you look at. It was a goal scorer back in the era where you needed to be a power forward if you wanted to have success.
Why can't he be William Nylander?
Why can't he be William Nylander? I don't have a good answer to that. He can. It's just... It's going to come down to what the roster looks like around him. And it's going to come down to, does he capitalize on the opportunities? I mean, there was the early portion of the season where he wasn't shooting the puck enough. There were times last year that you looked at it and you say you weren't getting the shots on goal. I think to become William Nylander, you're going to have to be excellent on the power play. Because the only way you get to that next threshold to being a guy that's in the 80 to 90 point window, you've got to be a guy who could put up 20 points on a power play.
Yeah.
And if the power play's not good, which isn't all on Snuggerud, that's on Thomas, that's on your power play quarterback, that's on the other pieces out there, then it's on Jimmy Snuggerud for making it better.
It's also about just like being great at scoring at 5-on-5.
And capitalizing on your opportunities.
Set aside the point production and look more towards just the goal production. William Nylander is not a power play merchant. He's not a guy that gets the majority of his goals off the power play. You know, he's consistently around 10 per year on the power play.
What's he on the assists number, though?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because
the points are coming from the power play because he is distributing for others. But I'm talking about his goal production, which is what William Nylander is primarily known as. This is a guy that's a 35 to 40 goal scorer basically every year in the NHL and has been that for pretty close to a decade now. That I think is the most important thing with Snuggerud is becoming a big-time goal scorer. If he ends up with just 80 points per season, but is scoring 40 goals per year, I'm fine with that. I'd sign up for that in a heartbeat. And that's kind of what you would get out of William Nylander if he didn't get the same assist numbers on the power play. So to me, it's about, can you produce goals at 5-on-5 for Jimmy Snuggerud? And if he can become that, I'm with you. It completely opens up your window, especially if you were to sign that 5-year deal at 7.5 per. This is around the time when we saw William Nylander, age-wise, break out for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That, to me, is the one that immediately stood out. And it was like, okay, I kind of see the comparison style-wise. And now it's a matter of, can they make good on that top line with Snuggerud, Thomas, and Holloway? Could that be for you what the top line has been for years with the Toronto Maple Leafs?
And look at the shooting percentage prior to these last couple of years. 19% for Nylander, 17% last year. But when he scored 40 goals back-to-back, 13%, 12%. Snuggerud this last year was 12% shooting percentage. And that's only going to get better the more he shoots and the more opportunities he plays. I think Nylander is a lot more likely for him, or Phil Kessel is a lot more likely for him than the guys on the opposite side of that realm, the bad contracts and the bad projections, because he just plays a different style than those guys do.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. But next, Keith Law joins the show to break down what the Cardinals were able to add to their system via the Major League Baseball trade deadline. He told us he would trade Dustin May as quickly as possible. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he probably likes the return that they got for him. We'll ask him about it next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Cardinals fall to the Yankees last night 2-0 as Game 3 of their 3-game set out in New York is tonight. 6:05 will be first pitch. Andre Puente will be on the mound for St. Louis. And the Athletics' Keith Law joins BK and Ferrario coming up next year on 101 ESPN. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, and we're happy to go out to the Kiley and Thompson hotline to be joined once again by our friend, Major League Baseball prospect writer for The Athletic, Keith Law, joining us here on the show. Keith, how you doing today, man?
Good. How are you?
Doing very well. So you told us, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now, that you would try to trade Dustin May as quickly as possible. Just get whatever you can in return for him. The Cardinals waited a little bit, but then they did get what seems to be a pretty good return for he and JoJo Romero. Let's start with that deal, Keith, at the deadline. What did you think of the Cardinals' return for Dustin May plus JoJo Romero from the Brewers?
Yeah, I was shocked that they got for a rental starter with a terrible history of injuries and a good, but not Mason Miller level reliever. They got Alexander Frias, who was in my top 70 when I did a prospect update just a couple of weeks ago. He's a very hard hitting teenage prospect, outfield prospect from the Brewers, who signed for a pretty modest bonus, but has absolutely raked in the Arizona Complex League this year. And then got up to low A, which obviously I'm assuming if he hasn't played already, he will be playing there in the Cardinals system. But it could be huge power, and he's got really good field to hit. He's probably going to end up in a corner. That's about the worst thing I can say about the guy. And they also got, blanking on his first name, but Ragsdale, the second baseman, who's got pretty good field to hit. It's not super sexy. He might be more of a utility guy, but good field for the strike zone to put the ball in play. God, just if they just gotten Frias and stopped, I'd probably still be praising the deal. And they got a second player in there who's probably a big leaguer of some sort. I know people who think he's got a chance to be a regular. To me, it's sort of like, well, you're just playing with house money here. You got a potential superstar in Frias. We'll see how the bat develops as he moves up the chain, but that seems like an incredible return they signed May to a 1-year low dollar for a starting pitcher deal and got 4 good months out of him, flipped him for a top prospect.
I guess the question that I would assume a lot of fans have when they see that, Keith, is, man, Milwaukee is just viewed as such a smart organization when it comes to developing their prospects through their pipeline, getting them to the major leagues. Why would they make a deal like that to go get Dustin May and JoJo Romero?
Oh, I did get it right. It's Josiah Ragsdale. Good. I get one thing I remembered.
Nailed it.
I had to look it up. Yeah, it's a lot of names this week. So everyone has that question, and I have that question. The Brewers are good. They don't usually trade away their best prospects. Maybe there's something they see with Frias that they're not totally sold on. Maybe they just think he's 3-4 years away from impacting us. We have to try to win now. You can't hug these prospects forever. They certainly have a lot of other very high ceiling prospects ahead of him in the system, ahead in the rankings, but also ahead by age and thus closer to the majors. Jesus Mate and Luis Pena. You could argue because Braylon Payne, who's another outfield prospect, more swing and miss, less power, but he's a center fielder with speed. They may have said, well, we got to trade one of these guys. Which guy are we more comfortable giving up? Because they need to get a guy who can start a playoff game for them and who could shut down. It's always the Dodgers, right? At this point, everything is about the Dodgers. But yeah, if Dustin May is healthy and ready to take the ball in game 2 of a playoff series, stuff's as good as anybody's got. I just, my issues with May have always been he's just never stayed healthy. And I actually wonder, are the Brewers going to try to take it easy on him, maybe skip some starts here so that he is fresh to pitch in October. But I understand it. It's a playoff caliber arm where you're not getting Skubal. Apparently they tried. They got outbid on Skubal, allegedly. Okay, who was the next best guy in terms of just pure upside to start a playoff game? May's probably as good as any other starter who was traded.
And you look at JoJo, and you mentioned it, like he's not Mason Miller, but if you're going to go up against the Dodgers or the Phillies, you're going to have somebody that's a left-handed reliever that can come in and get out their big bats, right? So you combine the two. I understand how you end up in this spot if you're the Brewers. It's just everybody's going to go back to Tarek Skubal, where, yeah, you could have had that, and you ended up with Dustin May and JoJo Romero, and the gap between those two things is obviously significant.
Yeah, and the Brewers have not developed another starter on the caliber of, at one point it was Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta. Burns they traded, he's hurt. Peralta they traded, and the guy they got in that deal, Brandon Sproat, just got demoted, actually to make room for May, because he hasn't been, certainly really hasn't been playoff caliber or even kind of mid-rotation caliber. And then Woodruff, unfortunately, just keeps getting hurt. And, I mean, to your point about Romero, yeah, look, the Phillies in particular, where I've kind of been on them a little bit of like, this lineup is really not good. It's, it's four guys at this point, if you want to still count Brandon Marsh, who's been in a terrible slump for about 6 weeks now. They're all left-handed. That whole lineup, anybody who's good is left-handed. The other guys, JoJo the Clown could get the right-handed hitters out. That is not the concern. If you're facing the Phillies, you're like, all right, how do we neutralize Harper, Schwarber, Arias, maybe Marsh if you still want to count him there.
Yeah, and I think JoJo can at least do that for an inning, maybe an inning and a third, something like that. Keith Law joining us here on 101 ESPN. Keith, on the other deal that the Cardinals made, they decided to trade Lars Nootbaar. They maximize, in their opinion, the return right now. Year and a half of club control still remaining for him. In return, they get an interesting starter and a guy that I really think is interesting and a left-handed relief option potentially. I'll be curious to see what the Cardinals are able to do there. What'd you make of the return for Lars Nootbaar with still some club control there?
Yeah, I mean, Nootbaar, the thing with Nootbaar is he's a stat head darling, right? That's a guy where people who are honestly just looking at like the baseball savant page have been in love with that guy. And why isn't he producing more? Maybe he will. Maybe getting to another system will help him. Maybe he'll get more regular playing time. He's also just been hurt a little bit here and there. I think he's a platoon outfielder. I think he'd be a very good platoon outfielder, but he's really never shown that he can hit left-handed pitching enough. And that fits the Diamondbacks' needs pretty well. Daniel Egan, to me, could be a mid-rotation starter. He needs a third pitch. I really trust this Cardinals organization to help him do that. I think I made a crack in my write-up of the trade. Like, don't be surprised if he shows up next year and suddenly has like a kick change or a splitter, some really effective third pitch that he just didn't have before. So he can get lefties out. If you do that, you have a starter. If you can't do that, you have a reliever and maybe a decent reliever, but ultimately he's going to have too much trouble with lefties unless he finds some third pitch, some other weapon for them. And then Santos, I think it was, he is pure reliever, but it's a pretty good arm. I am at least, the kind of inventory guy you want to have in the system. Sandro Santana, sorry. I was going to screw one up.
Hey, you
right
still
there. Got Sandro, which was impressive.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny. It was somebody, maybe MLB Trade Rumors, when the trade first came out, I shouldn't blame them. Yeah. Somebody spelled it wrong, and it was Sando. And I'm like, who the heck? Who is that? Not that I would have recognized Sandro Santana immediately, but then I try to go, who is this guy? And I go to look up the stats and nothing comes up. I'm like, great, they traded for an imaginary player. I don't know how to write this up.
That's like when you get into a draft and it's like the 20th round. You're like, who is that guy and what is that school?
No idea of this.
No idea. Yep.
So, Keith, when you're looking at all of these players that they got back in return, you mentioned the power, you mentioned the velocity for a couple of these pitchers. It really does seem like the Cardinals were targeting certain tools to add to their pipeline, which just never has felt like that's the Cardinals' way in the past when it comes to trades.
I feel extremely confident saying the Cardinals believe they have one of the best player development organizations in baseball. Their capacity to develop players, to bring players in from other organizations and make them better, that they are among the best at doing that they can take pitchers in and help them add new pitches. They've been doing this with Liam Doyle, whose breaking stuff continues to progress. They've taken Tanner Franklin, who was a career reliever at Tennessee, with Doyle, actually, and made him a viable starter. Even Yoichi Fajardo has gotten better since he joined the organization. I am mostly mentioning pitchers here, but they believe they can do this on the hitting side, too. So they can take guys who have question marks or still have development needs ahead of them, where Egan needs another pitch, or Frias may just need time, but we'll see. He may get to a higher level now and show some holes at the plate or in his approach, whether it's ball strike recognition or pitch types. We haven't seen enough of him yet. That hasn't been exposed yet, but they would feel like they can help a guy like that. So they can take risks on prospects that maybe other teams value a little bit less highly, because they say, well, this guy has this deficiency and we can't fix it. And the Cardinals, I think, are looking at it saying, no, we can fix a lot of guys.
It's interesting because I think they've got some proof of concept on the position player side of things within the last calendar year as well. Jesus Baez, the Baez that I don't think gets talked about as much nationally, he came over in the Mets trade. At the time, it seemed as though he was kind of a rough around the edges type of a prospect. He's really rounding into form this year, and the power looks very legit on him. And then Ty Pete, who they got from the Mariners in the offseason, he had a decent year last year down in the minors, but it was kind of up and down. And this season, I don't know if you've seen much of what he's doing lately, Keith, but Ty Pete is put on an absolute tear, and he just got the call up to Double-A. So I think they're starting to show some of that on the position player side of things as well. Keith, this is such a different conversation than we've been having about the Cardinals for the past 5+ years, where they were so far behind. And they brought in Chaim Bloom because of that. They needed to modernize their minor league system. What can that do for an organization when they have that ability or willingness or belief that, hey, we can get more out of these players that another organization was trying to tinker with? They just didn't have the tools to do it, and we believe we do. What can that do for an organization long term?
Well, I think the best answer to that is to point at the Dodgers. Two of the guys the Dodgers just traded to get Tariq Skubal were not Dodgers draft picks. River Ryan was a position player in the Padres system who had just been drafted, and they traded Matt Beatty to get the Dodgers traded Matt Beatty to get River Ryan because actually in that case it was because of the area scout had seen Ryan in college and seen him pitch a little bit and said, no, put this guy on the mound. That's where his future is. Zaire Hope had also actually just been drafted by the Cubs. The Dodgers actually just got their pockets picked on him. But again, they felt like we can take this guy and make him better. They have done this with lots of players. They did this with James Tibbs. They did this with Mike Sirota, although yes, the Dodgers, they don't actually take credit for that one. The Dodgers system is full of guys, a lot of guys they drafted too, but also guys they got in from other organizations and made them better. Their previous organizations weren't able to help them in the same way, and the Dodgers could. For them, it's a lot of velocity gains and it's a lot of swing adjustments. Those are their core competencies in terms of player development. It just opens everything up. You can draft different guys. You can target different guys in trades, majors and minors, when you know you have these kinds of capabilities. And so it opens the Cardinals up to do all kinds of different things. And the Cardinals system is now clearly in the top 10 in baseball, kind of trending towards top 5, I think. I'd like to see what some of these recently drafted guys look like, whether it's in their pro debuts or if they're playing in that informal bridge league down in Florida. But once I get some reports on those guys, I'll feel a little bit more confident. But I generally liked what they did in the draft, and I like what they did at the trade deadline. I think the system has taken another really nice step forward between those two things and the advancement of all these players we're talking about here. Pete in particular, I do want to mention, like both those guys you mentioned always had a lot of tools. Pete in particular, since he came off the injured list about a month ago, he's been bringing the swing and miss down a little bit because that's always been his thing, right? He's had power. He's a great athlete. He's really filling out nicely. But now he's starting to put the ball in play a little bit more. That's one where it's, you might really have something there. And the Mariners, who do a good job in player development, weren't able to make that improvement with him. And it looks like maybe in a small sample so far, the Cardinals have.
So, Keith, you might have already answered this question, but just in terms of the confidence of Chaim Bloom now running this organization, when you look at their top 10 prospects after this past offseason and now the trade deadline, 5 of their top 10 they have acquired in just a matter of a year with Chaim Bloom and all of these draft players that they just came away with. Where's your confidence level at in terms of him leading this team into what they hope is a winning window?
Oh, extremely high. I mean, he brought in Rob Cerfolio from Cleveland on player development, and Rob has completely revolutionized that department. They handed scouting from Randy Flores, who had a great run, to Randy's arguably his top lieutenant, Zach Mortimer, whose first draft I think looks really good, at least right out of the gate. It's not just Chaim. They've got good people, smart people with track records of success in several of these cases all the way down. And so this is not just, this is Chaim doing it on his own. This is also not just, he hired some guys with names we know. He's hired guys who have demonstrated skills in terms of identifying the right players to pick in the draft, or in terms of having real player plans that help players get better. And so I have a really high degree of confidence. I was always a Chaim Bloom fan. I've known the guy forever. I thought, and frankly, I think he got a very raw deal in Boston where ownership did not support him and didn't allow him to do all the things he wanted to do. And part of why the Red Sox are better now, his fingerprints are on some of that too. So I think the Cardinals are in great shape. I think the organization's 100% headed in the right direction. And there's a lot of pitching coming. I know we've talked about both players, but I think the predominant thing we've been talking about here is some of this young pitching coming. And it's not all going to work out. Some of them get hurt. But when you have this many promising future starters and guys who are more like number 3 starters or even better, you're going to end up being able to build a really good homegrown rotation.
Keith, we'll get you out of here on this one. Always appreciate the time as Keith Law is joining us here on 101 ESPN. Read all of his write-ups. There was a lot of them. And if you're a prospects head, you're interested in this stuff, you like the deadline, Keith's got it all broken down over at The Athletic. One guy that we haven't talked a lot about recently because he's coming back from injury is Cooper Jerpy. He just got called up yesterday to AAA. He's going to, I would assume, spend the rest of the year there. He's now back up to like 70 pitches when it comes to his pitch threshold. What do you see in his future? Can he still be somebody that impacts the Cardinals at the major league level? The numbers look good down in the minors, but what's your latest impression on Cooper Jerpy, the former first-round pick?
I've never been a big fan. It's one of I think the worst first-round picks of Randy Flores' tenure. And I felt like that was always a numbers thing. Like, he's a pitch shapes guy, Jerpy is, and that's great and all, but what do the hitters think? And I mean, the delivery, like, he was, obviously it's very safe to say of any pitcher, well, he's going to get hurt. But boy, did I think Jerpy was going to get hurt. That is not a repeatable delivery. It's hard on the arm. It's crossbody. He's a reliever. He's got to be a reliever. And even in his return this year, he's walking a slew of guys, and right-handers are crushing him because they see the ball all day long. Now, you might bring him back as a starter for now because you are trying to have him work on reestablishing control and have him be able to throw all of his pitches. So I'm fine with what they're doing so far, but I think Jerpy's ultimate impact on the major league roster is going to come in the bullpen. And maybe he'll be really good there. A lefty with that kind of stuff and that kind of arm slot, he's going to be extremely difficult, certainly for left-handed hitters to pick up. And maybe if it's just once a game, it's tougher on right-handers versus them seeing him 2 or even 3 times a game so that they can get used to the stuff and used to the delivery and start to pick him up better. So I think ultimately that's where he goes, even if for the rest of the year he's making these controlled short duration starts for them in AAA.
The numbers certainly bear that out. In his return this year, since coming off the injured list, right-handed hitters 750 OPS against, left-handed hitters 295 OPS against. A slight difference between the two. Hey, Keith, it's great to catch up, man. We always appreciate the time. Thank you so much for hopping on with us today. We'll talk with you again soon.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks, Keith.
That's Keith Law joining us here on 101 ESPN. Sincerely appreciate him hopping on with us here on the show. It's good to get a different perspective. I have a very significant difference of opinion on Cooper Jerpy, but I get it. I understand the negativity there. It's warranted. It's justified based upon some of those numbers. What stood out to you about what Keith Law had to say?
I think he said it. One, it's the frias. He used the word that's kind of like taboo when you use it as superstar. But I mean, to say that like they have a potential superstar for Dustin May, if that pans out, you're looking back on that like, what? But the other one, and the one I think that was more impactful, was what he said in terms of the confidence with Chaim Bloom, to where, I mean, it's as high as you can ask it, because in a matter of, what would you say, 1.5 seasons, but 1 off season, 2 drafts, and 2 deadlines, he's had now a pipeline that was talked about being a disaster to potentially a top 5 pipeline with multiple top 100 prospects. I think they have 4 now in their system, including with Frias. Yeah, that to me tells me that you've got a guy that has put together an incredible staff that knows what he is trying to accomplish. The utmost confidence right now in Chaim Bloom, and hearing it from Keith, who's a prospect guy, tells you where this team's at.
Mine goes back to what he said about them having a prospects development system right now that's among the best in all of minor league baseball. Dude, that is the opposite of where they were as recently as 18 months ago. So if they're able to maximize what they get inside of their system, how many times have you said the Cardinals don't know their system as well as other teams know their system? Well, now it seems as though the Cardinals know other team systems better than they know their own system.
Right.
That's a hell of a place to be in, and it's not something I've been able to say about the Cardinals in close to a decade.
Yeah.
So if they're back to that spot, it certainly portends positive things for the future. With Alex and T-Bone on BK in 15 minutes, the biggest X factor for the Cardinals rotation in the future is a guy that one person thinks is a reliever. We'll get to that in 15 minutes. Questions and answers is next. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joins us in this hour. From Dirk Diggler's unit, BK, you tweeted out last night about the Burley decision, not starting him. How is this even defensible? Then he pinch hits it with first base open. Not a good look for Ollie.
Easy over there, bud.
Yeah. Let's start out with this. My tweet was as follows. No Burley today is objectively hilarious. I stand by that. It's funny. At this point in the year, I don't get worked up over the lineups. Now, I get worked up a little bit over who's here and who's not. Like, not being on the roster, I think is still a big deal. But day to day, whatever, dude. These games just don't matter that much. I know people don't want to hear it, and it's not a fun thing to say, but you're 2 games under 500. You're basically out of the playoff standings. You just sold off at the trade deadline. We're 114 games into the season. The next 50-ish games are about development.
Yeah.
And if they thought Burley needed the day off for whatever reason, fine. He had a comment, Ollie did in the Post-Dispatch today, that he went to Burley because it was a scheduled off day and said, hey, do you want to get into the lineup? And apparently Burley said, no, we're good. So if Burley was good with it, I'm good with it. I don't really care. I just think, like, if you're a fan and you see that, my guess is your reaction is basically what mine is. He hit 3 home runs and he's out of the lineup today.
It was
weird.
A left-handed pitcher, Brandon.
I get it. Again, I don't care. I'm not just saying this. I am not getting worked up over who starts where and when.
Right.
The rest of the season. It's not a big deal. You've got 45 games left. If Walker's feeling a little tinge into his knee, man, give him the day off. That's fine. If you want to get Ivan Herrera a day off every week the rest of the season, fine. He's not hitting super well right now. Get him some rest. See if that's the variable. If you need to push guys back in the rotation a little bit, if you need to pull them a little early in these games, I don't care. This stuff just is not going to bother me the same way because the number one priority is not winning right now. So it didn't really bother me.
No, I'm with you. And the other thing, too, that I thought of is we've seen this multiple times that if a player comes to Ollie, at least reportedly, and says something, Ollie's going to side with his player. We saw them push back a couple of starts right before the All-Star break because he felt like there were guys that just needed a little bit. He is valuing the player's opinion, and if this was them fighting for a playoff spot, I think we'd all be having a different conversation right now of like, I get it, but you need to make sure you're out there to win every game. They're not there. Ollie's focus is winning every day, but his focus is also making sure the players know he's got their back. And that's what I think is very important when it comes to a manager.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 573. Guys, if the season ended today and the Cardinals were to finish just 2 games under 500, 4 games back of the wild card, would you say it was considered to be a success? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If they win 80 games this year and finish 4 or 5 games out of the wild card, yeah. That would have been a huge success before the season.
T-Bone and I talked about them potentially getting closer to a 100-loss season this year.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I thought they were going to be.
Well, and the funny thing is like it's as much as we will circle the offense as, hey, look at the year Walker had. He finally figured it out. Look at Burley. I mean, that guy's been awesome. J.J. Weatherholt, Rookie of the Year candidate. You know, Ivan Herrera, still a pretty good year, even though slightly disappointing, but that's mostly just been over the last 40 games or so. The thing that's so shocking to me is their starting pitching. Mm-hmm. It's actually been fairly good outside of Matthew
Top
Liberatore.
12 in Major League Baseball.
And I thought that was going to be the worst aspect of this team.
I didn't think they'd hit for power, and for the most part, they haven't. Early on, they did. They've kind of really tailed off, and I didn't think they'd be able to pitch. Now, the bullpen's been the area that hasn't been able to pitch, but the rotation's been much better than I expected.
Also, that makes sense. If you're a rebuilding team, it makes all the sense in the world that your bullpen is going to be not super great. I'm going to take a victory lap real quick. It's basically been what I said in terms of the upside case for them this year. I had mentioned all offseason, hey, is it that crazy to think the rotation could be better than it was a year ago? Not good, but better, considering last year they had an absolute nightmare with both Michaelis and Fetty. Those guys sucked every 5th day. They drained the life out of your team because they got hit so hard and so often early that you always felt like you were playing from behind. So could they just be competent on those days? The answer was no for one of them because Libby's kind of been the same thing. But you were able to upgrade the other ones so much that, yeah, it's been good enough. And then the upside case hit for J.J. Weatherholt and Jordan Walker for half the season. And boom, that was enough. That was it. All right, from the Ivan Herrera worshiper. Guys, does Quinn Matthews find his way into the starting rotation next year, assuming that there is a season? I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't. I think so.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a chance he's your opening day starter in 2027. Now, I think they would probably go McGreevy. They'll do more of the veteran thing.
I think McGreevy
but I
gets
think
it.
Quinn will have a chance to make a case for that at spring training if we have a normal spring training.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. I think McGreevy's got it, like just the season he's had, and like Tebow mentioned, I think there's going to be value in the veteran. He's got a chance to be getting that second start, though.
From the 314, guys, I know it's a small sample size, but does Hunter Dobbins have front end of the rotation potential? No. I don't think so.
No.
I think Hunter Dobbins is closer to Michael McGreevy than he is like whatever the Cardinals starter is that you loved from the past. Carlos Martinez, Jack Flaherty, Chris Carpenter, Adam Wainwright. Like he's not in that ilk.
From as well. I think it's McGreevy Leahy territory more than it is what Liam Doyle could or Quinn Matthews could potentially become.
I think it's McGreevy Palante. I think Leahy's got a little bit more upside because he's got a little bit more swing and miss. You got to have swing and miss to be a number one in the modern game, and he doesn't have it. That's fine, right? You can make a career out of being a back end starter, but he does not have top end rotation stuff. Alongside
Alex and Tebow, I'm BK. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Coming up next, well, Keith Law sure poo-pooed over what I'm about to say, but I think the biggest X factor for the Cardinals' rotation moving forward is a guy that just got the call up to AAA. I'll tell you who that is, how he could fit in next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends over at Classic Air Care, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electricity. Luckily, that 110-degree weather is going away for a little bit, but we all know it's going to come back at some point in St. Louis, and that's why you got to have a company that is looking out for you and your family when it comes to your HVAC system. Maybe you've got a 20-year-old unit. That's what I had when I moved into my house that we live in now back in 2020, and that thing lasted me 5 more years because I had Classic Air Care. I do the maintenance agreement to where twice a year they come out in the fall and the spring, clean the HVAC system, fine-tune it, make sure everything's good to go, give me some tips and tricks on how to get through the upcoming season, and it maintains the life of that HVAC system. Maybe you got a newer one and you want to keep that going as long as possible. Use Classic Air Care. They've got 9,000 5-star reviews that you can check out. All of the talk of their incredible customer service and technicians that work for them, but they're also out to care for people in the community. And right now they have a Feel the Love program where you can give a deserving member of our community a brand new heating or cooling system at no cost, partnering with Lennox. Go to classicaircare.com and vote for a local hero, military vet, teacher, first responder, or someone who's always putting others first over at classicaircare.com. Call them today. Schedule online, classicaircare.com.
With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Cooper Jerpy got the call up to AAA yesterday, Alex. Cardinals announced that on social media. I'm excited about him, and I feel like he is the forgotten prospect for the Cardinals system. This is a guy that was a former top 25 overall selection in the 2022 draft. He is now 25 years old. And if you look back at his history, he's had moments where he looks legitimately dominant in the minor leagues. And this season, since coming back from injury, he's been pretty darn good. Now, don't look at the ERA, but look at the batting average against. Look at what he's doing against lefties. There's some stuff that would suggest long-term, hey, there's really something to work with here. I say that and you guys laugh, but like Senja, you guys are excited about him, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what his ERA is on the season?
Oh, it's like in the fours.
It's like 5.7. Senja has not had a very good year by the traditional metrics, but if you look under the hood, there is a lot of stuff worth being excited about. I would say the same thing is true for Cooper Jerpy. Now, the command is not there the way that you'd like it to be long term. He's had a walk problem. At AA, he had 12 walks in 14 innings. That's too many. You can't get away with that long term. However, he also had 25 strikeouts in 14 innings. Okay, T-Bone, you want to talk about swing and miss? That is your swing and miss stuff right there. He is super funky in terms of his delivery. What you heard from Keith Law earlier today is that he doesn't believe it's repeatable. He thinks it's going to lead to long-term injury issues. He thinks he's a reliever. That very well may be the case, and if he does become a reliever, I think he has a chance to become one of the best left-handed relievers in all of Major League Baseball. There's that kind of potential. Opposing lefties since his return are 1 for 27 against him with 16 strikeouts. He's unhittable for left-handed hitters. It's about what he can do against righties. That's what he's going to have to continue to work on for the remainder of this season. But guys, whether they call him up by the end of the season and he becomes that 26th man and he becomes a lefty specialist for them, or they just allow him to continue to work on his arsenal at the AAA level the rest of the year, I think Cooper Jerpy is the guy that we don't talk enough about that could legitimately become the biggest X factor for the Cardinals rotation in future seasons. Him and TK Roby would be the two guys that I would throw into this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think I'd have Jerpy above TK Roby, and it's just because of that swing and miss stuff. But I think if I remember correctly, TK Roby had some of that before he was injured last year, too.
Absolutely. He's just hurt.
And that's the thing with both of them. Like, as much, and the X factor is 100% correct. The negative on that is just the injury front. And I guess the reason I'm not excited about it or hyped about it is because I have not seen this guy stay healthy for an entire season once throughout their minor leagues. And that's important, especially if you're going to be a starting pitcher. So if the rest of this season goes the way that it started for him now that he's healthy, and you could put together a season next year. And look, the Cardinals now with their development system and the people that are involved, they know how to keep guys healthy a little bit more. We've seen that at the major league level, and I have to imagine they're doing that in the minor leagues. Once you see it and this guy stays healthy, then I'm all aboard this. But the more swing and miss stuff, the better in your system. And you also forget that Jerpy was first-round pick. Like, that's one of those guys that you get excited about with their development staff.
Let me say this another way. He has the potential to be much better than Quinn Matthews. They're similar profiles. Both left-handed starters that struggle a bit to get right-handed hitters out, have a walk issue, and the hope is you can maintain the strikeout rate from the minor leagues and adjust that to the major league level, right? They can translate that to what they're doing here. Well, the guy with the better stuff, the better strikeout rate, and the guy that's been more unhittable in his time in the minor league system is Cooper Jerpy. When on the mound, he has flat out been a better pitcher on the mound than Quinn Matthews. So if you're excited about what Quinn Matthews could be for the Cardinals, I would say maintain that kind of excitement as well about Cooper Jerpy. They're also similar in terms of their respective ages. I think actually Quinn Matthews is a little older than Cooper Jerpy. I think there's just prospect fatigue with Jerpy because he got into the system in 2023.
And I think he was the old regime, and people just don't trust the old regime.
Exactly. And so you think of him and you compare it to what they previously were drafting. He's not that, man. This is a guy that's big swing and miss, big stuff. It's different because it's not super high velo, but it's funky. It's a super weird delivery, and it gets on you quick. And because of that, he has the potential. Here's his strikeout per 9 innings since joining the Cardinal system by year. 11, 16, 13, 13. T-Bone, that's got to play to your heart, right? And then you look at the walk rate per 9 innings, it's also problematic, but this gets back to your Blake Snell comparisons of, all right, if you walk that amount of batters, you better double that up in terms of the strikeout rate. Unlike Quinn Matthews, who has not done that very often, Cooper Jerpy has at every turn upon getting into the Cardinal system.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I've always just viewed Jerpy as a reliever. Now, maybe I've read a lot of Keith Law's work, but I hear funky guy, can't stay healthy, and a decent fastball, maybe not a great fastball, and I go, sounds like a left-handed specialist. Mm-hmm. And now that you look at him now, like, you see the splits. Now, I wouldn't read too much into those. I know Keith brought those up because this year I think it's just been coming back from injury to trying to figure it out. And if you look at his numbers from the last time that he was healthy and pitching at his level last season or 2 seasons ago, righties didn't hit for a ton of average. They hit for some pop against them, and the walk rate was bad. But like you said, that was the same thing with Quinn Matthews. So like I could see how you would want to dream on it. But for when I just hear kind of his profile, I get actually more excited about Roby than I do him. And Roby's a little bit less splitty last year when he was healthy before he dealt with the injury that shut him down. Meanwhile, Jerpy still has that problem. But again, that is something that you can work on. I just view him for some reason as a reliever. And I don't know why I can't shake that.
It's probably the delivery.
I think that's
the
probably
history.
it. And the thing that I remember from the write-ups from when he was drafted was he will have swing and miss, but it is not so much from the stuff, it is the delivery. Correct. And I would rather bet on the stuff than the funky delivery of the lack of batters picking up the ball from his hand.
The thing is, it's translated. Like at every level, the strikeout rate has translated. And this is why I'm so excited to see what he looks like at AAA. Like, to me, if you're looking down at the minor league system right now and you're thinking about, okay, who are the players that you have under the microscope for the remainder of the 2026 campaign? Cooper Jerpy is way up there on that list for me because I think he's a guy that could factor into your major league staff as soon as next year. T-Bone, I think he may have a career path that mimics either Matthew Liberatore or Kyle Leahy. And I'm not saying like as a failed starter.
Excited, T-Bone?
But what I mean by that is
prior to this,
going to the bullpen first to see how his stuff plays against major league hitters. And then if it plays well and he's able to stay healthy for a full season, then you start adjusting him into your rotation. Because this is a guy who's going to need to build up the innings threshold. Because right now, he hasn't thrown that much. He hasn't pitched that much in the minors. So if you tried to make him a starter next year, either you're starting him at AAA and just having him go the entire year at AAA and hoping to get him to like 100, 120 maybe innings, or you could have him at the big league level next year, have him as a lefty reliever that can go 2 innings at a time, and now you could get him to 60, 70, 80 innings by the end of the year, and you hope the following season you could bump him up as a starter. So his track to the major leagues seems pretty clear to me. It's just a matter of can he continue to have the success at AAA that he had been having at High A and AA. That's not guaranteed. We saw with Quinn Matthews a couple of years ago, he got to AAA and got his teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh boy, this is going to be a longer path than expected. So he's one of the biggest prospects to me that I'm going to be monitoring the rest of the year.
Yeah, and once you get to AAA, you get the Major League Ball as well. I don't think you get that at AA. I think it's at
Correct.
AAA when it starts. Yeah, and I wouldn't mind if they went that approach of, hey, let's put him in the bullpen first, see what this looks like, slowly build up the innings, and then depending on how your pipeline does or how far away guys are, then you can maybe try and put him back in the rotation like they've done with Libby and Leahy, and they've proven to have success with that, right? I mean, Palante was one of those guys as well. Started out in the bullpen in 2022, and then they had to send him down, or I can't remember if they sent him down and brought him back up. Maybe that was a year later. They ended up making him a pretty good quality starter, as we're seeing this year. So I don't mind they go that path. I wouldn't be saying he's a X factor for the Cardinals. I just kind of view him as if he hits, perfect. Like right now, I think there's higher upside plays in the system in Doyle.
Isn't that an X factor though? If he hits it results.
I think it's just
because I think the higher ups. No, I'm not trying to be mean. The higher
that was exactly what I was going for.
Yeah,
yes.
Because the higher upside guys are the ones that like Liam Doyle or Senja, to where it's like.
What I meant is I wouldn't go as strong as to say like this is the biggest X factor in their system. That's what I was going for. I think That's what BK said. I don't know who I would. I think Franklin might be more of that guy.
Okay, I can see
because
that.
I don't know that he fits
I think he falls
into
in the same category, though, of a bullpen arm that could be a starter if you develop the other
and
pitch.
I put him in that conversation because he was drafted as a bullpen arm. I mean, that was all he was used as out of Tennessee. And Vitello came on our show, and I asked him about him, and he said, look, this guy's got really good stuff. And the Cardinals saw that and said, let's make him into a starter. I view him more as an X factor than Jerpy. Now, again, part of that could be I've always viewed Jerpy as a bullpen arm, and I've not seen as much upside as BK has, and that's been since day one when he was drafted.
No doubt. I just find him really interesting, and I wanted to give a little bit of a highlight because yesterday he got the call up to AAA. He had been doing good things down at the AA level, and he's a guy that, I mean, we mentioned it before. There's not a ton to watch, monitor the rest of the way at the major league level. There are some guys at the minor league level, the minor league system, that do deserve some of that microscope. Coming up in 15 minutes, Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joins us here on BK and Ferrario. NFL Quick Hitters is next on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Let's dive into some NFL quick hitters here on BK and Ferrario. All right, Alex, let's start out with this one. The Athletic put out their NFL quarterback tiers. Have you seen this yet?
I have not.
They have Tier 1 listed. How many quarterbacks do you think they have in Tier number 1 this year?
I'll say 2.
They have 4. 4 quarterbacks in Tier number 1. Patrick Mahomes is listed as the number 1 quarterback in the league still, based upon what NFL evaluators told Mike Sando of The Athletic.
I'd say that's a little risky, but sure.
Number 2 quarterback is a tie between Josh Allen and Matt Stafford. And number 4 is Joe Burrow, and that is Tier 1.
Good.
Lamar Jackson fell to Tier 2 this year.
I'd agree with that.
I think that's the right call.
I do too.
That matches the eye test to me. In Tier 2 is not only Lamar, but it's also Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Drake May, Jared Goff, Jordan Love.
That's a joke.
Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, so half the league, this is a joke. Come on, let's identify what Tier 2 really is. You could have stopped probably Dak, May, Lamar. I think I'd probably stop there.
Yeah, I would have Goff into a Tier 3.
Yeah, Goff and your boy Jordan Love. Good
And
God, Purdy. Yeah. Why are we putting Purdy and Goff in the same category?
I gotta tell you, why do we hate Brock Purdy so much?
Because he's a system quarterback.
Because he's fine.
I think he's pretty good.
I think he's pretty good because he's got Shanahan in his head all those weapons for so long.
Who are all of those weapons that he was throwing to last year?
When they've been good. This year, I don't think Brock Purdy's going to be good at all.
I'm saying last year, though, he didn't have anybody to throw to.
He had Jennings and who was the other one?
Yeah,
Pearsall
anybody
when he was
excited
healthy.
about... Yeah, Pearsall barely played, and we don't know if he's good. And Jawan Jennings is like a really good number
but that
3.
also plays into my Kyle Shanahan topic, where he's got a quarterback that makes him great. Put him on the Carolina Panthers, and do you think he's going to be good?
I think he'd be a heck of a lot better than what they've had with Bryce Young.
That is a low bar to clear, though.
Agreed, but that's why I've got him.
I don't think he's Tier 2.
Put Brock Purdy in Seattle. I think Seattle wins the Super Bowl last year.
No way.
I think he's better than Sam Darnold. Put Brock Purdy in Jacksonville. I think he might be better than Trevor Lawrence. Put Brock Purdy in Denver. I think he's better than Bo Nix.
That I will agree with.
Bo
Nix should be Tier 5.
I think he's better than Baker Mayfield. I think they're kind of similar stylistically, and I think Purdy is just better out of the two.
Yeah, I
think this is showing a lot of respect to Brock Purdy. I would take Brock Purdy over Jared Goff. Jared Goff is 8th on this list. I think you could make a really strong case that Brock Purdy right now is a bottom portion of the top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I think they're very close.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interchangeable.
Like Purdy versus Love, who do you like?
I'd go
like Purdy
I think
a
they're
little
the same,
better, but I think they're close.
And I think it's just because of the success Purdy has, which I tie it to Shanahan.
So who are the guys then that you like? Caleb Williams? I'd probably take Caleb. I
would
he's
take
too
Caleb
low.
above. Yeah. And I'd take Jaden Daniels above him.
That one, I think I agree, but I do wonder about the injuries.
Yeah,
we'll find out this year, too.
Yeah, I think I need another year before I'd be willing to take
But
Jalen
I also
over him.
saw him with very little weapons to still be great.
Here's a fun one. Jalen Hurts versus Purdy. Who are you taking?
Purdy.
Probably
Better-
Purdy because he can throw the ball better than Jalen Hurts.
Better
I think
for
so,
the year.
too.
Yeah.
I think so, too. So
I also think Hurts is a system
what you guys have
quarterback.
just told me is it feels weird to say that Brock Purdy's the 11th best quarterback in the league. But based upon everything that you just said, you'd have him right around there.
Yeah,
11
But he
to
still
13.
wouldn't be a Tier 2 quarterback for me.
Yeah,
he would be
I
a
would-
Tier 3 quarterback.
Okay, so you just make it a
my
shorter
tier stops at
Yeah.
a certain amount of guys.
Yeah, I think me and Alex are on the same page there.
So you'd have tier 2 ending after like Drake May?
Yeah.
Probably. And can I ask a question that probably will be
Is
BK won't
Stafford
like
Tier
it.
1?
No,
That's my question.
I don't know about Herbert in Tier 2.
I kind of agree
Herbert
with that.
still leaves a lot to be desired for me.
Herbert's very much like Dak, though, to where like you see this special ability. He just can't win the big game, and he can't make the big play.
So that's the thing that I always wonder about with whether it's Herbert or Dak or Love. Some of these guys that just haven't done it. Trevor Lawrence, you could throw into this category as well. They haven't done it when the games matter the most. We typically judge quarterbacks based upon that. Herbert's kind of the one guy that everybody just looks at and says, nah, he's special. I mean, yeah, he's a special talent, but So is Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams is listed lower on this list than Justin Herbert. Why?
Yeah. I mean,
what has Justin Herbert done to deserve that?
I mean, I would take Drake May over all of those quarterbacks, probably right in the same tier as Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I think you could make a case that that's tier 2. It's just those two guys.
Probably. Dak has special moments, but he's a regular season quarterback. Like, I would take Dak over Justin Herbert.
You know how much I love Dak.
Yeah,
You're
it's
gonna
just
get no pushback here.
I have the same problem with Dak that I do with Justin Herbert. He can't make the plays in the playoffs when it's important. And that's why, like, I agree with Justin Herbert. Like, to me, Justin Herbert is a fine quarterback, but he's not a guy that I'm starting a franchise with.
Yeah, and that's where I'm with him. Like, I've seen moments where I'm like, I get it, right? I get why he's in tier 2. I don't see enough of those moments. It's the same with, like, Trevor Lawrence at times with him. Mm-hmm. There's moments where I'm like, wow, I get it. I get how you were number 1 and everybody hyped you up. And then I watch him, like, the next week and I go, oh, yeah, there he is. That's the same guy. And I think that's kind of what tier 3 is for me, right? There's moments with Jared Goff, if he's in the right system. And then there's times where I go, this guy's like short-circuiting in the moment right now. Blitz is coming and he's short-circuiting, doesn't know what to do.
It's
so
kind of why Caleb Williams is there too, because we've seen him make those mistakes.
Yeah, and that's why I think that tier 2 is just a shorter grouping. You know, I agree Purdy's probably the 11th best quarterback. I just think there's got to be like 2 or 3 guys that are in that second tier.
I found this one to be interesting. I think this is maybe one of those where it's kind of a flashpoint on the list. Where do you think they had C.J. Stroud?
I mean, I would assume tier 3 because he's not in tier 2.
15 to 20 range?
Yeah, I was going to say probably like the lower half of it. I'd say probably even lower. Maybe I wonder if it's like 25 to 32.
Hit him at 20.
I think that feels right.
He's right ahead of Daniel Jones and Bryce Young. He's behind Aaron Rodgers, Bo Nix, Jalen Hurts.
All right. Well, he's better than Rodgers.
Man, I find him to be one of the more intriguing quarterbacks in the NFL heading into 2026. Because I think there's a chance this is right, where he just settles in as a mid-tier, average-ish quarterback that needs help around him in order to win it all. I think you can win with that now in the NFL. I don't think you could as recently as 5 years ago, but today, like, Bo Nix and the Broncos could win the Super Bowl this year, and it wouldn't shock me. C.J. Stroud, if he's average and they have an excellent defense, that's good enough now to win the Super Bowl. But, boy, as recently as a couple of years ago, I think we all would have had him closer to the top 12. Mm-hmm. We would have had him in that range that they now have, like Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams, those guys. Where are you at right now on C.J. Stroud, Alex?
I mean, I kind of think he's rightly placed because if you think about all of the other guys that are in that tier with him, all of them have had one good year that you look at and you say, yeah, okay. And even with C.J. Stroud and that great year he had, if I'm remembering this correctly, didn't he start off slow a little bit and then got better down the stretch?
I think that was the case. I can't recall for sure.
But I also remember C.J. Stroud, like he made some crazy throws, but he also had Nico Collins making some crazy catches. And like
I think that's a caveat, though, that you can make for any great quarterback.
I agree, but what you said is where it falls for me with C.J. Stroud. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's going to have any success unless he's got somebody incredible with him. To where other guys that are higher up, they're going to make plays without somebody incredible with him.
I think there's very few, though, that I would say that about. Josh Allen, I would throw him into that mix. Like, that guy's going to be great no matter who's around him. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be really good and drag his team along no matter who's around him. That might be the end of that list.
I think Lamar,
like Joe Burrow is throwing to 2 of the top 10-ish receivers in the NFL.
Drake May should be on that list.
Oh, I don't. I think Burrow could do it, but we won't know because you're right. He's got.
I mean, Drake just did it without anybody with him.
I think May is up there for me.
May is what Josh Allen has done. It's just a small sample size. And I'd put Lamar there. It's just you can't do it in the playoffs. He can do special things without anybody with him.
I agree, but when the moments matter the most, that's when I'm going to judge you the harshest, and he hasn't been able to do that. And
that's where it dips a little bit for me. But
Drake May, to me, I agree with you, Alex. I think he has the potential. Like, if you wanted to put him third on this list today, I could understand it.
Yeah,
I think he's right there with Stafford.
And I know it's only 1 year, which is why Burrow's ahead of him. But
they were the 2 guys in the MVP conversation last year. I don't think that's crazy.
Drake May should have been in that conversation. I thought he should have won it. If you want to talk about the most valuable player to his team, it was him versus a guy that had Puka on his roster.
I think Drake May is much more likely this season to be in the top tier than he is to drop from where he is on this list.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think there's regression here coming for May.
Wow.
I think you see this all the time with these rookie quarterbacks, right? We see them have one good year. I'm not putting them 3, right? Like, that was the moment where BK said that and my eyes nearly popped out. You got to do it twice for me to put you that high as a young quarterback. I mean, otherwise you're C.J. Stroud, right? Stroud did it once, didn't really follow
Not at this level, though.
Jaden Daniels did it once, didn't really follow
Drake
it
just
up
did
that
this
year.
with nobody else. Stephon Diggs was his best receiver and went to the Super Bowl.
They also didn't play a very good schedule, if I remember correctly.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah, but
I
you
remember
still
that
did
being
it.
He did it in the playoffs against good teams.
I want to see another year before I'm saying this guy's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, so, like, we're talking about the guys against him are Lamar,
Who can't
fifth,
do it on the
who
biggest
has not
stage.
done it in the playoffs. We're talking about Herbert at 6, Dak at 7.
Yeah.
You know, those are the guys in front of Drake May on this list. If you want to argue, you guys know how I feel about it. If you want to argue, hey, Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, those guys all have earned the right to be ahead of him. Totally fair. Joe Burrow's got to do it again too, man.
Joe Burrow,
he's done it exactly once.
Yeah, and
so far.
He's hurt every year. Like, there's availability that's a part of this.
So it's an interesting time in the NFL when it comes to quarterbacks. Basically, like 4 to 25. They're all really good. There's a ton of really good quarterbacks in the league. How you rank them in that list, though, I think is going to fluctuate quite a bit over the coming years.
I like this text. Shut up, Ferrario. You don't know ball.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, let's talk to Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, here on 101 ESPN.
Hey, Chris Kerber with you here. And listen, when you hear me talk about a local company and tell you that you can trust them to use them, one of the reasons I'll do that is because I have used them myself. I've experienced their service. I've experienced what they can do, and that I have belief in them. Well, Classic Air Care is one of those companies, and this is another reason why I love working with companies like this. They want to know if you know a hometown hero. Do you know somebody that you would like to nominate for their Field of Love program, where they are partnering with Lennox to give a deserving member of our community a brand new heating or cooling system at no cost? That's right, no cost. So if you know a local hero, a military veteran, a teacher, a first responder, or let's just say someone who's always putting others first, you can nominate them today. You visit classicaircare.com. You help them share the love with someone who truly deserves it. It's giving back to the community like this on top of the great service that has them with over 9,000 five-star reviews on a Google rating. It's this kind of service and this kind of commitment to the community that makes me proud to work with them. It's Classic Air Care. I told you I trust them for my house. You can trust them for your house. Book an appointment for your heating and air conditioning needs at classicaircare.com. But get online today at classicaircare.com. Nominate a local hero that you know for the Feel the Love program and see if we can get them a new heating or cooling system at no cost. It's classicaircare.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Yankees yesterday 2-0. Game 3 of their 3-game set out in New York is tonight, 6:05 first pitch. Andre Palante will be on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline. Our friend, the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, joining us now here on the show. Kerbs, what's good?
BK, I'm doing good today. How are you doing?
Oh, doing really well, man. We've got, a couple of weeks left now prior to the start of training camp. How you feeling, Kerbs?
Because you're an empty nest. Well, no, you have one kid left still at home. The other two are at college, Kerbs. So this is probably like we got to get to hockey season sooner rather than later.
Listen, guys, I told you this, and you know as excited as I am, and I am actually really excited for this season. I don't need to rush the start of it. It's going to come no matter what anyway. So Gracie stayed in Louisville this summer to take some classes and work as an RA. She's doing great. We take Gabby back down to Mizzou Friday morning. And Ava's a junior in high school rehabbing ACL surgery, so we've got a road to go with her. But I'm frankly soaking in and enjoying as much of this family time as I can get because and the travel schedule gets long at times. So looking forward to it. Just I don't need to rush the start of it.
Understandably so.
100%. What do you find to be the most intriguing storyline as we get closer to the season, Kerbs?
You know what? For me, if it's okay with you, I'll block it into two things. Number one, I'm really intrigued how training camp is going to go. Okay. Training camp is going to be different. It's going to be a lot like maybe those years where we've had a lockout, in mid-season or some kind of work stoppage, because training camp is only going to be 2 weeks. And instead of having 3.5 to 4 weeks while you're playing 8 or 9 games or 7 to 9 games, you've only got the 4 games. So I am really, and on top of that, I'm told like the teams for the new CBA aren't allowed to do fitness testing. Now, what exactly that means, I don't know, but players are going to have to come into camp ready to go. So I'm looking forward to that process and seeing how that plays out.
Kerbs, real quick, as a follow-up on that, what do you think that means? Like, what are the differences that fans should be anticipating because of the condensed preseason schedule?
Well, I don't know that it's going to mean a whole lot. Well, from the fan standpoint, it does mean there's 2 more regular season games. So we have an 84-game schedule again in the NHL. Beyond that, I don't know that it means much for the fans. I believe it means an absolute ton for the players. Now, most of the players, by the time you hit early September, get themselves back into town anyway, right? And they start skating there. But the reality of it is with the season now opening up, the actual NHL season opens up, September 28th, right?
29th.
Like, they're going to have to, they're just going to have to be ready to go, game ready, earlier and quicker. And so how camp is run is going to be an interesting one. So to me, it's not so much the fans as it's the players themselves, because otherwise I would anticipate either some roster moving, some juggling, some whatever it may be, because I could see some strained hip flexors or strained muscle pulls or something like that fairly early on in the season, across the National Hockey League. So I think that's the big storyline to keep an eye on from an early season standpoint.
Well, and what's fascinating with that too, Curbs, is you have to imagine they're going to prioritize putting their NHLers in more of those few preseason games, which takes away, one, from some of the excitement from fans, I would imagine, that don't get to see those top prospects play in a lot of preseason games. But two, there's really no protecting those NHL players from injuries because you want them to be playing in more preseason games early on.
The veteran players can only play in 2 of the games, right? So if you go back to last season, and I have not, again, I want to make sure that this is clear. This is my opinion, and I have not talked to management or even the coaches so much about this, right? But I go back to last season, and when we talk about this, actually the last few, and you talk about the start of the season, and for the Blues, it hasn't really been a very good start, right? You go back and you look at camp, and take last season. Last preseason, the Blues had close to their full roster play in 1 game. That was it. And in that 1 game, the top line with Robert Thomas and 2 other guys I don't remember off the top of my head were not in it because they had played in Dallas the game before, right? Well, the team, and I think in only 1 game when we played Dallas did we play close to what was a full NHL team. So in the end, our regulars didn't play against regulars really once in the preseason, or a reasonable roster for that, right? And I like this plan better of getting them in a couple of games in a smaller window and getting them ready to go. The fact is, too, and this is the downside, especially if you like the way Doug Armstrong has done things, he likes giving those young players a taste, a flavor, get on a road trip, you name it. Okay, you're going to miss that opportunity now. But at the same time, instead of having so many extra guys around for a while, you're going to be down, and the locker room's size is going to be to where guys are primarily in the locker room together, and you're building your team camaraderie and chemistry much earlier on. And I think that that's going to be really important, in my opinion, to get off to a better start rather than having, and when I say dead weight, I mean this respectfully, rather than having, learning weight, improve yourself weight, hanging around a little bit longer. The Blues are going to have to cut it down to size and get going there. So some of those other players may have to get some seasoning or some opportunities in the minor league camp, but you're just not going to have that same opportunity in the big club camp.
Curbs, do you think there's a chance that the Blues just call up Dallas and call up Chicago and say, hey, we've got 2 games against each of you. One of these games is going to be minor leaguers. The other one's going to be best on best. And let's go ahead and make it work that way, where we basically have 2 legit games against these teams and 2 games at its prospects time. Is that something that you could see these teams kind of going, talking to one another and trying to figure out a way to make this work?
Real quick, not to interrupt, but what I find crazy about the question that you just asked is the first game you play or the second game you play this season. No, it's the first one. You play against the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, and you've got 2 against them to open up preseason, and then you've got 2 against Chicago. It's a home and home with both of those. That's the way the preseason schedule works.
The third game of the season.
Yeah. So to Alex's point, you're not going to try and hold something back in the preseason to try and surprise those teams in the regular season early on. But BK, to your question, I think the answer is 100% yes. It's possible. I think Doug Armstrong made that comment last year where he said he kind of wished, he said this publicly, he kind of wished he had reached out to Dallas and said, who are you bringing, right? So they could have had a game against, somebody, right? And because even in the old system, guys, we'd get to that last game of the preseason, game 7, 8, or sometimes even 9, and we're recalling half the team that was sent down to the minor leagues, and you're just playing a game of American leaguers for the most part, right? And at that point, I don't know that you're seeing or learning anything about some of these guys that really impacts your immediate future, your immediate roster. So I could very much, Brandon, see that happening where they make the call and say, let's make sure we got something. Now, maybe the simple rules of you've only got 4 games and you've got to, you're playing these veterans in a couple of them. Maybe that clears it up itself. But, yeah, I would think that those calls probably get made, especially if you're working with a team you've got the relationship with, the general manager, to ask it.
Yeah, I just think, especially with Dallas, they certainly have relationships there. You can give them a call up Jim Nill and say, hey, man, let's go ahead and operate as if one of these games is like a prospect camp and the other game is a true, let's get our team ready to go. Let's go best on best, your, 12 best forwards and your 6 best D-men going up against our 12 best forward and 6 best
That's what
D-men.
the Panthers and Lightning did last season, which I know led to a pretty nasty game with a ton of penalty minutes, but like they went best on best with a lot of their guys that had to go out there and prove it, and you had the result of one of the best preseason games of the year.
At least then you could potentially try to
Tampa
build
Bay
up some
Lightning.
chemistry too.
Yeah.
Well, the Tampa Bay Lightning last year said we're taking the preseason opportunity to send a message to the regular season, and those games they weren't quite to the level of Colorado, Detroit, right?
It's close.
Right? But at least there was some of that bad blood, which is great. And BK, to the point you just made about chemistry, that's what I'm talking about, the locker room. Like in some respects, there is a lot of value when you have some of these young guys in the main room or in these other rooms sitting next to veterans and learning and talking. And there is something invaluable to that. No different than an internship in the real world, right? But, when you're only talking 2 weeks, getting these guys in there, getting the other noise out, and starting the culture that Jim Montgomery and his new coaching staff wants from day one inside that room, whether it be how you let the media in, anything and everything, the culture that Alex Steen, the Jim Montgomery want, that starts day one of camp. And when you can kind of keep your team numbers somewhat reasonable, I think that's invaluable time this year because of the way things are going. And frankly, look, you'll go through it this year and you're going to learn a lot of how you want to start running things next year, right? But being that this is a kind of a fairly new setup, to me, this is one where, in my opinion, you go more conservative on the route of doing anything you can to get your team ready than a little more liberal by saying having a few more guys in there. Now, having said all that, guys, keep in mind, the St. Louis Blues have a lot of forwards under contract right now. They've got some real roster decisions to make, and defensively, too, with the signings and trades that they've made. So a little bit of their evaluation time on some of these guys just got cut. That's an additional challenge for Doug Armstrong and Alex Steen.
No doubt about it. Hey, Kerb, it's going to be a fun camp. Appreciate the time as always, man. Looking forward to breaking this thing down as we get closer and closer to the start of training camp.
All right, guys. Have an awesome week. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, it's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us as he does each and every week here on BK and Ferrario. By the way, Cardinals player development just tweeted this out. Cooper Jerpy expected to start tonight, make his AAA debut for the Memphis Redbirds against Nashville. That is Milwaukee's AAA affiliate, which, as you guys know, they've got arguably the number one farm system in all of minor league baseball. So you're going to see a real test here for Cooper Jerpy. Can't wait to see what he's able to do against that lineup.
I know you can't wait, buddy. You got your jersey already?
More intriguing start tonight. Cooper Jerpy at AAA?
Your answer I already know, so T-Bone, I'll be curious.
Cooper Jerpy at AAA, or the St. Louis Cardinals play tonight, and it's Andre Palante against the Yankees.
Oh, it's Jerpy at AAA.
Okay.
Now, I'm not watching that, but I'm going to watch the Cardinal game. Now,
mine's Andre Palante because I'm watching it.
That either, but yeah, it's Jerpy. It's not even close.
Come on, man. He's only going to
Jerpy
pitch
tonight
like 2
or
innings.
Matthew Liberatore on Saturday.
Matthew Liberatore on Saturday.
I might actually watch the AAA game Saturday.
No, Matthew Liberatore.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you missed any of our conversation with Chris Kerber or our conversation earlier today with Keith Law, which actually drew some praise. Keith,
I saw some people saying they're turning the tide on Keith.
Kyle Reese said on Twitter, this comes with a caveat that I only heard the last few minutes, but I actually thought Keith Law was terrific on BK and Ferrario.
Dr. Xander on our YouTube chat said, I think I'm starting to like Keith.
Redbird Farmhands. It was better than my expectations. So if you missed it, hear a better than expected interview with Keith Law. The praise pouring in from all directions. It's on our YouTube page at youtube.com/101ESPN STL, or you can find it on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app that is sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
Junk Drawer next here on BK and Ferrario. Sean Bell on Twitter reaching out to me. Keith Law only slightly more liked in St. Louis than Kroenke, in my opinion. So
I wonder where
praise
you're at on that
pouring in
list.
from all directions. I mean, I would say third.
I wonder if you're in between. Like, I wonder if people turned the tide on Keith Law and you're stuck in the middle.
I feel like I'm an acquired taste, and I feel like at this point it's just
that's definitely true.
That's a D-bag sandwich right there. Only in the middle is just more of it, like, God.
I feel like I'm pineapple on pizza. Some people like it, some people don't, but people agree.
I feel like you're anchovies, where you
pizza.
open up the can and you're like, oh, God.
All right, Alex, what do you have for us today in the joke
Okay,
drawer?
guys, I got a dilemma, and I need your help. I need your opinion, and the text line. I need your opinion. And we all know how very kind and gentle the text line can be here.
Always.
So I don't know. I'm 36. I don't know if this is considered a midlife crisis. Might be. Katie and I are watching The Hangover the other night. Great movie. And Bradley Cooper's character comes on. And I'm looking at it, and I go, I think I want to do that hairdo. And I don't know if you know this, T-Bone, you haven't seen the movie. His is like, it's not a mullet,
Like
but it's long,
back,
but it's
yeah.
slicked back, and it's got the sideburns. And I looked at Katie, and I go, I've never done that before. And I know, like, when I was a kid, my hair, when it gets long, it gets curly. And I've always liked the slick back look.
Sure.
And so I'm watching it. He's in his suit, and I'm like, I think I could pull that off. And Katie's like, yeah, I think you can. She goes, because my wife does hair, and so she's like, you're going to have to grow it out. It's probably going to be like 6 months.
Yep.
She's like, but you do the right products with it. She's like, I think you could do it. I texted a buddy of mine, and I said, I'm going to try this. I think I could pull this off. He responded, F no.
Oh, no, I think you could.
You think I can?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen The Hangover?
No.
Okay, look up Hangover,
I know the
Bradley
hairdo,
Cooper.
though,
Yeah,
you're talking
so it's
about.
not a mullet, and so that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't want a mullet. I want it to where it looks professional in the sense.
I would say it's hockey hair.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But the question is, one, can I pull it off? And two, am I going to be able to handle the criticism of the ugly stage growing it out?
I mean, I hope so.
Because you got to get to
answer
the
your
point.
first question, you don't know unless you try.
Okay.
I think you could actually.
You
grow
think
it
I
out.
can do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you could do this easily.
Okay.
I think if you had like a huge huge it would be tough to
wouldn't
pull
work.
off.
You
but I don't think
already
it's that
do
bad.
your hair back. Like, I don't think it's
well,
going to be
but
as
it
big
goes
of an
kind of to the
adjustment.
side. I can't really slick mine back, but I think
you
when
can
it's
if you get it
long,
longer.
yeah, when it's
Yeah.
long, you could slick it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, by the end of the hockey season, I think you'll be able to do this just fine.
Okay,
I
so
agree.
6
I
months.
think I would look funky doing it.
Oh, you
I think
look
you.
terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think your hair.
You are
That's
acquired
mean.
taste.
Yeah, that's mean, I guess. Geez, but yeah, no, I was like, I think I want to try this because I was like, I don't typically get experimental with my hair. I did that one time where I did the short on the sides and long on the top, slick back. I can't pull off hipster hair. I was like, nope, can't do it. This one, I was like, I think I could pull this off. Now, secondary question, can you have a beard with that hair?
That's what I was just thinking.
Because he's clean shaven, and I look like a child when I'm clean shaven.
Yeah, he's done it in the past where he goes.
Yeah.
His is more
I
like a
think-
5 o'clock shadow, but yeah, you can do
Okay.
it.
I think
by
it
the
would
end
look
of the
better with
movie,
a
he had a
beard.
5 o'clock shadow.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
I think with the beard, it looked better.
I think I'm going to start this. I
right.
told Katie, I said, I'm due for a haircut soon. I'm not going to
Should we
mess
all
with
go
it.
through a midlife crisis with you?
I mean, if you guys want to.
BK should bring the earring back.
Come
on, man.
Both of them.
Mine would be more likely I get it.
The arm sleeve? Well, that was the other one I wanted to do, but I don't have the money / I don't have the body build for
Unfortunately,
it.
I'm
that
much
one
more
would last
likely
a
to get
while.
a sleeve than return with the
I'm going to
earrings.
have a mustache in October because my
see-
girls want to do Mario and Luigi and Princess and Bowser and everything.
That'll take you like a week.
Yeah, well, I'm going to
Just
have
shave
it.
the
Yeah, I'm
rest
just
of
going to
it.
shave everything. So I'm going to have a mustache for the month of October. But I think you guys helped me. A lot of people are giving me support on this. I'm going for it. I'm going to start growing it out.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone and
Yes!
BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Proud of you, buddy. You were able
so
to
excited.
to grow some cojones. Alex,
Hey!
you're gonna
What
grow
should
out
I
the
do
hair.
for mine?
Hey! Marshy just said do it too. So Marshy's got some good locks.
Marsh is basically what you're looking at.
Marshy's is kind of it. Marshy's isn't more
What
of
do
a
you
mullet.
think T-Bone could do with his hair?
Do you remember in grade school when you used to like grow it and you do the swoop in
Yeah,
front?
you could do that.
That's what T-Bone can pull off.
Yeah, you could do that.
I don't know. That's kind of. I'm looking for maybe a little more. You know.
I'm not sure what
there's
more you
no
can
more
do.
you can do. Your hair doesn't do a whole lot, big boy. But you can't know until
To be
you
fair,
grow it.
mine didn't either prior to growing it
Well,
out.
because you kept it short for so long, and like,
Like
you
T-Bone's.
you shave yours. Like you go very short when you cut your hair.
That's how mine used to be.
Yeah, I did too. You have to grow it out long enough to find out what your hair does. Like I know
we'll
mine.
find out.
When it gets long, it gets curly.
T-Bone,
does
just
not
a
do
heads
that.
up. Yours will just go straight down unless you choose for it to
You're
go the
the
opposite
guy that
direction.
goes down over your forehead, and you have to do one of these to see.
I hated that guy in high school.
Hey guys, the
hated that
Justin
guy.
Bieber is what they call
the
it.
emo.
Yeah.
The emo
Yeah,
move.
Bieber's what it was known as when I was growing
it
up.
was emo when we were in school.
Yeah.
All right, coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into more likely to happen.
Try it,
But
T-Bone.
next, which Cardinals are most likely to see a call-up before the end of this year? And is this going to be a sign of things to come? We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN. Some news in the NFL. Stephon Diggs has agreed to terms with the Washington Commanders on a one-year contract. According to Jordan Schultz, it is a contract worth up to $12 million. There had been some talk in recent days about where Stephon Diggs would ultimately wind up. Looks like it is the Commanders, as they have turned their attention away from Brandon Ayuk.
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
It worked out last year with Stephon Diggs and Drake May.
I think he'll be fine there. I don't think he's Stephon Diggs of old, but he can be somebody that gets you 700 yards.
Be like a number 2, probably more of a 3 at this point in his career, but you could play him as a 2 if you had to.
I think it's a good signing so long as you know what comes with him.
Yeah.
And it seems like he's never been an issue inside of the locker room. It's just like away from the field, there's a lot of stuff to deal with.
Well, none of the guys that he's played with have had any issues, like quarterback-wise. Like, none of them have had any development issues, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's a good signing. I think he'll help them. I think he would have been, like, as a Chiefs fan, I was interested in them potentially making the move for Stephon Diggs. But $12 million, I don't think they could have done this. Makes a lot of sense for the Commanders. So there's your news in the NFL. All right, Alex. So we've talked a lot about what happens after the trade deadline. You now are in a spot where young players, I would assume, are going to get more of an opportunity down the stretch. We saw yesterday they make some call-ups. It's, the left-handed reliever that they got at the deadline. I think he actually might end up being a pretty good signing, by the way. I think he's a pretty decent reliever. But he's added to the mix, and then Cesar Prieto, who I don't think anybody's excited to watch, being real, he's also added to the mix.
Calm down.
Neither of those players were named Joshua Baez, who a lot of people are excited about, or guy that was sent down, and Quinn Matthews. I think you'll see them. I think it'll probably be about 10 days from now for Joshua Baez and 15 days from now for Quinn Matthews to allow for them to get rookie service time next year. Who else do you think could be on the call-up watch? Like, which are the other prospects you guys think could legitimately make it to the major leagues by the end of this season?
So, Baez, obviously. Bryson Motts, I think he's going to get... Why do you keep making that face, man?
Just don't know if I agree that he's going to make it.
Well, that's because you've been trying to get it for the last month. I think at some point you'll have to do it. But
I actually agree. I think if things go to plan, he won't see the major leagues the rest of the year.
I just wonder if he gets a shot if the bullpen starts to hit fatigue for certain guys, if they just try and cycle through a little bit to see. But okay, I can understand the skepticism. The one that I'm curious about is Leo Bernal. I think that's one you should get up to the major leagues. Now, the answer from a lot of people would be, well, they already got too many catchers. Right. Move on from Pedro Pages and put Bernal in the position that you were supposed to be doing with Jimmy Crooks, to where it's like, let's see what this guy's got. Because you got the competition. Don't move off of the 2 starts for Herrera. You get 2 for Crooks, and maybe you just get 1 for Bernal. But those would be the guys that I would focus on. Quinn Matthews, obviously. I think Bryson Motts should, because the bullpen has just been such a wild place this year. Joshua Baez and Leo Bernal.
Yeah, I think the only prospects that you will see are the ones that you guys have mentioned, which is Joshua Baez, Quinn Matthews. I think that will be it. I am fascinated to see if they will call up Bernal, because I thought, and I said this on the Rubber Report, I thought they were going to make it a priority to trade a catcher so they could get him up here for the final month and a half push, or not push, but the final month and a half while they could kind of manipulate the service time a little bit, because he's been on a tear down there in the minor leagues. He's viewed as a good defensive catcher according to reports that come from the organization and from outside outlets. I thought they would try and move on from Pages or Crooks so they could kind of find a way to get him up here. And if they didn't make a move, I don't know how you get him up here and how you balance that playing time. If you still want to catch Herrera, now maybe they decide not to, and it makes this equation a little bit easier. But if you still want to catch Herrera, I don't know that you can catch Herrera, Crooks, and Bernal all in with the 3 of them up here, get them enough playing time. So I don't think you're going to see him. I don't think you're going to see Motts the rest of the way. I think their hope is he learns how to be a bullpen arm down at AAA, and then maybe gets a cup of coffee in the second half in September. But I would plan right now that they're not going to do that. The one that I would say he's not a prospect anymore, but I'm curious to see if they will call him up, because I'd rather see him than Prieto, is Sajaci. Sajaci's on a tear over the last month down there at AAA. He is slugging in the last 28 days, .612, and has a .977 OPS. I wonder if they will call him up here, but again, he's not a prospect, so he's not someone that's probably going to get everybody super excited.
Yeah, I don't know what the role is for Bernal if you call him up. If they were to do that, Alex, how do you make it work roster-wise?
I mean, you DFA Pages.
He can be optioned.
Oh, so you option Pages.
Okay. And
that's
then
the roster move.
Okay. Are you still getting Ivan Herrera starts behind the plate?
I wouldn't. I think I would move more towards just having Herrera be a DH, because I think
that's the move.
Yeah, I think
Herrera is no longer a catcher in your.
Yeah, and I think that's the position they're ultimately going to have to come down to. Now, maybe they want to keep it, so I think I would just then go to 1 start a week for Ivan Herrera.
Okay, if that's the plan, you can make it work. Hell, you could do that even if Pedro Pages is still here. You could just send down Cesar Prieto and make it work with
4 catchers. Why not?
I mean,
but what's Pages? I mean, at least
Prieto
Prieto
in your mind, because in your scenario, Ivan Herrera is no longer a catcher.
Well,
it would be the equivalent of last year having.
But
Wilson
isn't
Contreras.
Herrera just moving into Pages' role if you keep him there? In my scenario, where he plays 1 start a week at the catcher position.
I mean, honestly, if you're doing that, you probably are just saying he's not a catcher.
Yeah.
So at that point, get him opportunities instead of at catcher at first base.
Yeah.
Left-handed pitcher on the mound. You probably go to Ivan Herrera at first base. Yeah. And Burley comes off the bench that day. This is once out of every 4-ish days. Mm-hmm. And Burley comes off the bench whenever there's a right-handed pitcher that comes in. Boom, he's in for a big spot there.
Yeah, that's how I would do it. Because ultimately you're going to have to make that decision. We talked earlier in the show of, Herrera's, how you're viewing him the rest of the season, and I kind of side with T-Bone to where the bat's more important for me right now for him, because that's what he eventually is going to be. With all of these catchers in your system, he's eventually going to be a DH or playing somewhere else.
To be clear, I'm not there yet. I would not be willing to just completely give up on the Ivan Herrera catching situation yet. I think that's an offseason decision. Like, you get through the end of the year, you get him through the 162. He's been healthy this season, which is a huge change from what it's been in recent years. He's at least so far, been able to play 100 games. That's a big step forward. And doing that while also maintaining, 1 out of every 3 days as the catcher, that's a really big step for him. Now, he still has huge question marks about his arm. So far, they have not been answered in a positive way, despite the offseason surgery to potentially help that. But I think this offseason, that's when you make your decision on what's our view with him. Is it good enough behind the plate that we can continue to do this 1 out of every 3 days? Or does he need a position change where he's going to be an outfielder, first baseman, DH type for the rest of his career? I'm cool with whatever they decide, but for the rest of this season, I think you stick with it. And if you do that, I don't think there's a spot for Leo Bernal. So I think the Bernal decision is entirely dependent upon what you do with Herrera.
But let's say they keep Herrera there. They're only using him 2 times a week. Why not just bring up Bernal and put him in the Paez situation?
Because I don't think Paez should be starting the rest of the year.
Well, I'm with you, but they still start him. So if I'm at least going to get 1 start, I'd rather give it to Bernal.
They're not really doing it much anymore. I'll give the Cardinals credit for this. It's almost exclusively and definitely primarily been the 2 catchers that you would want to see for the last couple of weeks now, where they have flipped the page. And now it's hard to say this because yesterday they literally just went back to Pedro Paez, but he had not started the previous 6 games as a catcher. He has only started now 3 times as a catcher since July 19th and 4 times as a catcher since July 11th. It's like Pedro Paez has basically, they're turning the page on him. He's team cheerleader. Is effectively what he is right now.
Congrats, Pozo.
Which is fine. I've got no issues with that. In fact, I prefer it. So if they're going to continue to do that, I think that's the right game plan, personally.
That makes sense.
And you've seen some positive returns from Jimmy Crooks lately. He's hitting the ball hard. The numbers aren't there yet in terms of the traditional metrics, but the underlying numbers look pretty good. I'll throw a couple of names in the mix because I think you're right. Baez and Matthews are the 2 that I would actually really think we're going to see, and just not yet. Hansel Rincon has been having a pretty decent season this year down at the AAA level. He's a reliever. He's Rule 5 eligible this offseason. So if you want to keep him in the mix, you've got to add him to the 40-man roster anyway this offseason, most likely. I think he probably would get selected in a Rule 5 draft by somebody. He's exclusively a reliever. But he's been pretty good in that capacity, and he can go multiple innings for you. He's kind of doing the 2-inning stuff for them down at the AAA level. 4 ERA, 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, walks more than what you'd like to see, but he's deserving of a chance. I'd like to see him get the September call-ups. He's a guy I'd be open to seeing down there. The other guy would be Cade Winquist, who they lost in the Rule 5 last year. Yankees had to return him because he was on the injured list, I believe. In 31 innings down at AAA, 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, has no walk issues either to speak of. Now, the ERA is terrible. All of the underlying numbers, though, suggest really good. So he'd be another guy that I would say, hey, if you get to the end of this season, you're in September, and you want to kind of overhaul this bullpen a little bit, go ahead and DFA Pete, how do you say his last name?
Scrabble.
Stralimski?
Yeah.
Stralimki, whatever
Polish.
it is.
He's Polish like my wife.
DFA him, option Gordon Graceffo. Let's see what these guys can do in those spots. That would be something I'd be interested in as well.
You need to watch your mouth, bud.
I know.
I'll be talking about my fireman.
I thought you were going to say Caleb Ferguson after they just gave up some international.
No,
he stays.
I would be open to Caleb Ferguson being back here next year. I like the move for him.
Yeah, I think it's possible they could.
Isn't he making the most money on the roster?
Yeah, he has the highest salary on the roster right now, $4.5 million.
Yep.
Wow, I thought I heard that when he was traded.
Yep. Good for him.
Way to walk into a
Players
clubhouse.
actively on the roster. Now, the highest paid player on the team is Nolan Arenado.
No, but imagine walking into a clubhouse where you were just traded for and you make the most money of anybody in there.
And you're like a low-level reliever.
We paid international money for you.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, he makes $4.5 million. That's the highest salary currently on the St. Louis Cardinals.
The longest tenured is Palante, and the highest paid is Caleb Ferguson.
By the way, Palante, second highest paid player on the roster right now.
Boy, where we have fallen as an organization.
And we thought this wasn't a rebuild when they were winning.
Ouch. Last night was the first night where it really hit me. Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's when it hit you? When they lost to the Angels, it kind of hit me.
Early on, they were playing fairly well, even though they had win hitting cleanup. It felt like a rebuild. But last night was the first night where it was, wow, you've sold off all your pieces. Fermin's hitting cleanup. That was the moment where I went, wow, we are officially to the dog days of summer.
Can I ask you one more thing on kind of semi-related to all of this?
Cooper Jerpy's going to be great, man.
No, he's not going to be here.
He'll be Blake Snell.
It's not about him. It's about Quinn Matthews. I went through the every stage of grief that you could possibly go through yesterday as they announced that he was being optioned down to AAA and ultimately landed on whatever. It's annoying, but I understand why they're doing this. I would like to make one addendum to that. I'm fine with that this year. If they have a similar kind of a situation arise, probably as soon as next season, God, do I hope they don't make the same decisions. Because if you're so worried about a 26-year-old starter that probably profiles best as a mid-rotation starter long-term, having that extra year of club control on him when you're starting to contend again, boy, is that going to get annoying really quickly. And playing the service time manipulation thing is not something Cardinals fans have really had to worry about under John Mozeliak. Say what you will about him. He had a lot of frustrating qualities as a president of baseball operations. He was not somebody that concerned himself with the service time manipulation game. He viewed it as hey, if they're good enough that we have to worry about that, we're going to sign them whenever they get to that point where we have to. If that's not the case any longer, with Chaim Bloom in charge, I do think that will become a legitimate talking point and a legitimate point of contention with this fan base. As soon as next year, probably more so as soon as 2028, though, when they start to get into contention mode. So as just something that's kind of on my radar, how are they going to approach this when they're good again? I don't know the answer to that question just yet. It's worth monitoring in the coming years.
Yeah, I agree with that because and I was frustrated in the moment, and I've since kind of digressed on the Quinn Matthews one. But I'm with you because if you're doing that constantly, that is operating like the Tampa Bay Rays, and arguably they have to do it because of the way that their organization is kind of structured with the low payroll. Same with the Milwaukee Brewers. But if you're going to tell me, as they have, with ownership, Bill DeWitt III was on with you guys on opening day and said, hey, goal is to get back to a top 15 payroll in baseball. If that's the goal, then this shouldn't be a thing that is a conversation.
Yeah.
And that will be interesting to see what happens when they get back into that contention window, if they will still be making these decisions. To Mo's credit, he never really did that. The only guy that I would say he kind of quote unquote did that with, but it made sense because it was the first year they were really bad, was Wynn in 2023,
Correct.
where they didn't call him up till that whatever that date was, mid-August, so he could potentially win Rookie of the Year the next year and they get a draft pick back in return. That was really about the only guy that I can think of.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else. Honestly, to their detriment sometimes, where
they had Walker up here on opening day with 5 outfielders.
Carlson in the COVID year, that really didn't matter. Just here we go, bat and cleanup. They will not. They had not done this previously, and maybe this is just the equivalent of Mason Wynn, where they say, hey, it's a lost year. There's no reason for us to call him up, 10 days before the date at which we could get the extra year of control. And again, I totally get that with Joshua Baez. I understand it, though, am annoyed by it with Quinn Matthews. If they do it in the future with a Rainiel Rodriguez, for example, to try to get that extra year, that's when it's going to get pretty annoying.
When you're competitive is when it's annoying because,
Absolutely.
If the Blues would have done that with Jimmy Snuggerud 2 years ago and said, look, we're in a playoff spot, but we're not going to put him up here because we don't want to burn that year of his entry level, that would have pissed me off. But instead, they were winning. If they would have been in the same position with Snuggerud that they were this past season, he wouldn't have been on the NHL level. I think he would have gone straight to the minor leagues and not burned the year. So that's where it becomes a problem because now it's asset management. And that's smart to do when you're in a rebuild. When you're winning and you're competitive, asset management is what scared organizations do.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, more likely to happen is next. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You guys give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely here on BK and Ferrario. All right, Alex, let's start out with this one. I've got a Cardinals more likely to happen for you.
Okay.
More likely to bat cleanup for the Cardinals in 2028. Joshua Baez or Alec Burleson?
I'll say Alec Burleson. Because if they're going off the lefty-righty, you're assuming Weatherholt's getting that lead off, which probably means another righty's in that spot. And then
You didn't do the math right here.
No, I didn't do the math right here.
Yeah, it'd be Baez then.
I still don't think it would be Baez, though. I think it would be Walker before Baez. I'm going to stick with it, and somebody else will become a leadoff. Or Ollie will change his ways and go lefty-lefty off the top.
Great take, terrible rationale. That's all.
I got there, though. I got there.
Yeah, I would say Baez.
I hate you guys sometimes. Stupid
Because
rationale.
I could see the future lineup. The tough part is I don't know where you put then Walker. If you go I was thinking like you go Weatherholt, Walker, Burley, Baez, and then it comes a question of is Herrera still here? Because I don't know that he profiles as a 5-hitter. He does better than Newbar, but I would say Baez. I'll lean Baez, sticking with the left, right. I think that's become the thing every team's trying to accomplish now in their lineup.
I think so, too. I think it's one of those things, though, that can be a little overstated. If Walker's really good against righties and lefties, you're fine. In fact, you kind of like the fact that you've got a lefty at the top because then it invites that lefty to potentially go against Walker. Or if you have a righty that comes into the game there, well, now Walker, and then in my scenario, Rainier Rodriguez batting third potentially, and then you go to Alec Burleson fourth. Well, that lefty has to stick in the game, or excuse me, that righty has to stick in the game to go up against Alec Burleson. So good luck if you're not able to get out those first two guys. So I'm going to say Alec Burleson is more likely. I think Joshua Baez is more of your Teoscar Hernandez.
I was thinking like 5-6 in the batting order.
Yeah, if you're a competitive team contending for something meaningful, I think that's the exact kind of bat you want hitting sixth in your lineup.
Yeah,
so
I was going to make that same point. That's why I said Alec Burleson off the top. All right, guys, more likely to have more championships in their tenure with their teams. Chaim Bloom or Alex Steen? And let's assume there's no salary cap in Major League Baseball.
That changes everything.
No, it doesn't.
I'll go Chaim Bloom because I know he's good at this. I don't know on Alex Steen yet.
Oh, yeah? How many championships did Chaim win with Tampa and Boston?
No, but I've seen proof of concept on what he's going to build.
Say with your
Steen
chest.
may be great. I have no idea. I have no proof of concept just yet. So I'll go Chaim Bloom just because there's more track record to go on so far.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I would say Chaim. I think it's one, the track record, and two, I think he's got them going in the right direction. Like the pitching pipeline, like when we talked with Keith Law, and I mean, think of all the names we've brought up just today about their pitching pipeline. That's what you've got to develop if you're going to get to that next level. Is you've got to have pitching, right? This is the thing I keep repeating over the last 3 years in this whatever we're calling it. You can get by with a bad offense. You can't get by with bad pitching. So that's why I would say that for the Blues, it's one, the lack of experience for Steen, and two, just this is their core. I mean, they're locked in with their core right now, and there are still a lot of unknowns as to what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think I would say Steen, and it's just because, like you said, T-Bone, they've got their core now, and now it just becomes, do they have the right guys? And I don't know if the Cardinals have the right guys. Until they find that, then you really don't know when that window, if it opens, and what they become, to where if we think Thomas is great, if we think Holloway and Snuggie and these guys are, I think that window gets there further, and that's where you try and capitalize on it. Plus, the NHL is a lot crazier when it comes to the playoffs and success versus Major League Baseball. You kind of know what the trend is when teams win.
Guys, more likely to win Rookie of the Year, Joshua Baez or Justin Carbonneau?
I'll say Baez. I don't think Carbonneau is going to get the same opportunity to win Rookie of the Year like Jimmy Snuggerud, because if I look at the depth, let's say Carbonneau doesn't make it until next season.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
When the Rookie of the Year would come in.
With Baez.
Snuggerud, Holloway, McMichael, and Neighbors are probably in your top 6 as wingers.
I'll go Baez as well, just because people get obsessed with the home run and stolen base numbers. So if he's able to have like a 2020 season as a rookie, I think that could play. So I'll go Baez.
I think I would agree as well. What would it take, like 20 goals for Carbonneau to win Rookie of the Year?
Like 20, I think 30 plus.
That high?
Trying to think, because who just won it? Was Celebrating? No, Celebrating didn't win it. It was Schaefer won it, then Hudson, then Bedard.
Schaefer didn't score 30 plus, did he?
He scored 25, and he was a defenseman.
Yeah.
The last forwards to win it. Bedard with 22, Beniers with 24, Kaprizov with 27. Yeah, I think you're talking 25 plus.
I think you got to get 20 to 25 because Bedard was awful. 22 goals and 61 points is great.
The problem, though, is he came into the season as the favorite. Like, he was always going to be the likely candidate to win it, Rookie of the Year unless somebody else forced him off of that spot.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be the case for Carbonneau.
Yeah.
Carbonneau will not come into the season with any hype, so he's going to have to force his way into the conversation and be better than the guys that were drafted ahead of him.
Yeah, let me see the forward.
So I think 25 plus is what you need.
So when Lane Hudson won, Macklin Celebrini, when he got third place, what did he have? He
finished third Rookie of the Year?
Yeah. Behind Lane Hudson, who was just an insane. So I'm trying to look at who was
Hudson had 66 points.
Yeah, Lane Hudson. Yeah, and as a defenseman, it's insane. So when Bedard won it, Brock Faber and Luke Hughes were right behind him. So it also comes down to what the class is with you. Like,
no doubt.
If you got a bad class, you score 20 goals as a rookie, you're probably going to win it. But when you're in it, if you got a great class, then good luck trying to win it.
Yeah, I almost wonder, like, I said Baez. I've gone back and forth on this. I could see Carbonneau just because I feel like his floor is going to be a little higher than Baez.
And he's going to get power play time.
There's a chance like Baez could come up here, and though, yeah, he might hit home runs, he may also hit like 190 in his rookie season.
Absolutely.
And strike out like 40% of the time. And if that's the case, like, that's not a guy that's going to win Rookie of the Year even if he hits 20 home runs.
And the thing for Carbonneau is you're going to get power play time, and if you go out there and you find a way to score, let's say, 9 power play goals, now you just got to get 10 even strength, and now you're talking about being a guy that's in that spot. So I could see it with Carbonneau. It just comes down to who he's getting. If he's playing with Pavel Buchnevich or something like that, then why not? How do you have success with it?
All right, a couple more of these from the text line from the 618. More likely to happen: the Lions finish first or last in their division this year?
I'll say first. I don't think they finish last.
Vikings,
Packers are finishing last. Bears.
I'll say last.
Same.
I don't think they're beating the Bears for first.
There's no way they can be worse than the Packers.
I absolutely think there is. More likely to happen: Illinois wins the Big Ten or Mizzou wins the SEC this year? I'm assuming that's for college football, and if so, Mizzou.
Yeah. Yeah, Illinois is nothing.
If it's for college basketball, then Illinois.
Yeah,
for
it's
college
still
football,
Mizzou.
Yeah,
Mizzou. I do think the basketball side of things is more interesting because neither of them, I think, are particularly likely for football.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say it's probably Mizzou for football just because they return some of their key pieces offensively. I truly have no freaking clue what to make of Illinois this year.
More likely to happen: Major League Baseball gets a cap and a floor, or they eliminate revenue sharing and let players get to free agency significantly faster.
I'll say the latter.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get a true cap and floor.
Nope.
I say cap and floor.
I hope it's cap and floor.
I think you're missing all of 2027. And when you do that, eventually the players will cave.
Guys, next summer will be rough if we don't have baseball.
Oh,
we're just going to let you know.
We get to flap our entertainment wings. Better hope the Blues make a deep run in the playoffs because at least it's either that or that they're awful and you get a top pick because at least that'll take us to June.
Or the Blazers move here. Coming up next, Mizzou getting the benefit of the doubt from college coaches. Unfortunately, so are half of their opponents this year. We'll get into that next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell to the Yankees last night 2-0. The rubber match, their 3-game set out in New York, is tonight. 6:05 first pitch. Andre Palante on the mound for St. Louis. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alex, the coaches poll, way too early coaches poll, was released yesterday. Mizzou did get a little bit of respect. I do appreciate that from the coaches across the country, or their SIDs, whoever is ultimately taking these things.
It's the SIDs.
Let's be real. Mizzou comes in at number 25, so the absolute last spot possible, but they come in at number 25. Woo-hoo. As we've said before, I have no idea. I don't know what to expect from Mizzou this year. The reality is these things are all not even as valuable as the paper that they're printed on. Like nobody knows who's on these teams, much less who's going to actually be good. Who's starting at quarterback this year for Texas Tech, Alex? Who's rushing the passer this year for Texas Tech?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Because I think they'll probably be pretty good because they have a ton of money to spend on players. But a year ago, their best dudes are guys that aren't here any longer. Their quarterback was caught up in a gambling conspiracy. So,
that went well.
I don't know if they're going to be good this year or not. Ole Miss, I love their quarterback.
I don't love their coach.
No idea if their coach is going to be good as a long-term answer there, or if that was a really nice 6-week stretch where they were trying to shove it where the sun don't shine for Lane Kiffin.
Oh, graphic.
You know, so like, moral of the story, I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of any of this stuff, but I do like that Mizzou got a little bit of respect.
Yeah, it creates a little bit more excitement and anticipation for the season if you didn't already have it by being in the top 25. Really, that top 25 is just off of, well, look, Drink has had a lot of success in the past in the SEC. They've got a quarterback that's got some upside, and they're returning a really good player.
Here's the downside. Here's the downside.
What, your retired defenses, guys you don't know?
Well, there's that. Here are 5 of the teams that Mizzou has on its schedule for the upcoming season. At number 3 in the way too early coaches poll,
AR Pine Bluff,
Georgia. At number 4, Texas. At number 8, Texas A&M. At number 9, Oklahoma. And at number 10, Ole Miss. I just read you half of the top 10, 5 teams on Missouri's schedule next year.
Yeah, I heard 5 wins.
That they have to play in the upcoming season.
At least 3 of them are at home.
Alex, Mizzou would have to beat a preseason top 10 team in order to just go 8-4, like they did last year.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, like, this team could be so much better. They could be a legitimate top 15 team in the country in terms of the quality of the roster and how they play over the course of the season. And they very well may go 8-4. And that's the reality of playing in the SEC and having the schedule that they do. It's not just about how good they are. It's also about, do they get these teams at the right time? And are they able to make a couple of plays when the moments matter the most? The answer to that last year was no. The answer to that, honestly, in most of these games under Eli Drinkwitz has been no. They're going to have to this year. Otherwise, it's going to be another, like, encouraging but ultimately disappointing season.
And I think that's why we talked about it earlier this offseason, where it does feel like this is just kind of that leap year, to where it's a year that you're not expecting a whole lot because you're trying to get to next year with this roster. You're trying to get to 1 year of development for the defense, the quarterback to figure it out so you have him still. Only problem with all of that is, you know, the guy that is probably going to be the best or one of the best running backs won't be on the roster next year. But like we talked about then, that's an area that they're great at. So it does feel like when you see this, if they had this roster on last year's schedule, I think we might be feeling a little bit better about it.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Just because you got the quarterback, you got the running back, and it's not as tough of a schedule, it is one of those seasons that it's like, hey, let's just talk about the next one before we really get into it.
It also provides for a lot of opportunity. You know, like, I don't think they're going to do it. But if Drinkwitz is able to pull off one of these games, the biggest criticism that a lot of people have about Drink is, hey, he can't win the big one. He can't beat Texas A&M. He can't beat Texas. He can't beat Georgia. He can't beat a good version of Oklahoma. He just whoops up on all the teams that you're supposed to beat, right? And at the end of most of these seasons, that gets you to 8-4-ish, somewhere thereabouts. This season, that's not good enough to get you there. So if he is able to pull off one of these games, I will be really curious to see what the reaction is if they finish the year 8-4 and they beat, let's say it's Texas, right? A top 5 team in the country potentially at that point in time, but they still finish 8-4. Does that mean that he gets a point of credit in his favor, or because they only were able to get to 8-4, you still diminish it because, the end of the day, what's an 8-4 schedule really get you? A nice trip to, I don't know, the Cotton Bowl or like the Independence Bowl. I don't know. The Tax Slayer Bowl.
Play the backups of like Boston College.
Yeah. I mean, how much are you really intrigued by that? But you got the big win that has been lacking from the resume. So,
yeah, I'll be curious to see how people will react with Drink, because you're right. With a team with so much turnover, like, I just have so little expectations for them. Even though they're top 25 in this coaches poll, I know that seems weird to say. Illinois was 29. I just saw on the others receiving votes. I'm like expecting them to go 6-6, and I won't be that upset about it this year, as they're kind of doing the same thing of retooling on the fly. Theirs is a lot more of a retool than what Missouri's is. But I'll be curious, because like, if he goes 8-4, you're right. Like, what does that really matter? This is one of those few years where I would say, hey, that would actually exceed expectations for me for Missouri, because I have very little of what's known for them, right? I just know their running back room's good. That's about all I know right now. And they've got a good wide receiver. Olugbade's a stud. That's about all I know for them. I expect the defense is going to be solid, because Drink's proven he's recruited that well. They lost their blindside tackle on the right side. He went down to injury. So I don't know what to expect from the O-line this season.
And even he was a bit of an unknown. He was a new guy, right? So there is a ton of unknowns on this team going into the season. I understand, top 25, that's nice to be able to see next to your name. And it's honestly a credit of what Eli Drinkwitz has built, that they're just giving him the benefit of the doubt and saying, hey, that guy will put together a good team. I don't know who it's going to involve. I don't know what the players' names are, but Eli Drinkwitz, top 25 roster. Cool, go ahead. That's really all this says. And now the hard work begins, and we are less than a month away from them taking the field against Arkansas Pine Bluff in week number 1, a game that I would be very surprised
if they win.
If you see, I would be very surprised if you ultimately see one of the top running backs in the country and Ahmad Hardy on the field for that game. But, hopefully he's able to get back before mid-October.
Don't waste any of the miles on AR Pine Bluff, because if they can't beat it without Ahmad Hardy, Ahmad should just shut it down this season.
They should probably not even play Robert, let's be honest. Let's just keep everybody healthy. Simmons, no.
101 ESPN all week long has your shot to score a pair of single-day passes for the BMW Championship. It's coming up on August 18th at Belle Reve Country Club. That pair of passes will include access to the Trophy Club presented by Michelob Ultra. See the PGA players compete while you're enjoying the Trophy Club presented by Mich Ultra. Find your chance to win that pair of single-day passes for the BMW Championship at Belle Reve right now at 101ESPN.com or on the free 101 ESPN app. Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind and give you a chance to score a pair of tickets to see Guns N' Roses. That's all next here on BK and Ferrario. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up here in just a minute or two, we'll give you a chance to score a pair of tickets to see Guns N' Roses their next Saturday night at Busch Stadium. Find all of the details at 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app. But coming up here in just a moment, we'll give you a chance to win a pair of tickets to see them. Alex, the Cardinals are back in action this evening. It did not go particularly well for them last night in New York as they lose 2-0 against the Yankees. It's Andre Palante on the mound tonight. 6:05 first pitch. How you feeling going into this one? Will Warren on the mound for the Yanks, a right-hander starter.
He's a righty, so that means Burley will be in the lineup, so you won't be able to laugh anymore about this team like you typically do. So knowing how this one will go, the offense can't make a hit yesterday, and they'll probably score like 8 runs tonight. I think Palante will be good like he has been. I'll say they win 6-2 final score.
I think the bullpen blows up and you end up losing this one 6-4.
Is that arguably funny to you?
Not funny, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think they win. I think Palante keeps it on the ground. I think he gets your bigger arms. Yankees are really scuffling offensively outside of the first game of the series.
They've been worse than the Cardinals, actually, lately.
So I say Cardinals win. I think it's like 4-1 Cardinals win.
The entire outfield is on the injured list.
Yeah, I mean, they're best hitters. It makes sense that they're struggling right now.
Bellinger, Stanton,
it's been awful, like truly awful. And I thought Yankees fans were just doing the Yankees things where they just always hate their team. But I was looking into the numbers with T-Bone earlier today, and since June 22nd, they are one of the 3 worst offenses in all of baseball. So it's been really bad for them. If you guys missed anything from our show, check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
We had Keith Law earlier today. We had Chris Kerber earlier today. We also talked a little bit about who we've got our eyes on, both at the major league level and in the minor leagues over the next few weeks, and talked a little bit about Jimmy Snuggerud's upcoming looming contract situation as well. Alex, you guys had a new edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast earlier today. What can people look forward to when they check that out on the YouTube page?
Talked a lot about the Snuggerud contract, what it would look like, and if they need to get one done before the season starts. We also talked a little bit about if it's necessary to give Robert Thomas the C before the season begins, and I complained about the anatomy of the draft a little bit.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, not that the Blues did an incredible job. I complained about some of the decisions at the draft that I learned in the anatomy of the draft.
Okay. Well, check that all out. Find out what it is. I'm going to check that out because I'm curious what you were complaining
BK
about.
Heard that and he's like, ooh,
YouTube.com. Yeah, that's right. /101 ESPN STL. Right now is your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Guns N' Roses next Saturday night. If you can tell me what it is about Alex that he would like to change about himself as he's going through a bit of a midlife crisis.
I don't want to read these
What
texts.
does Alex want to change about himself? If you have the correct answer, your texture number 101, you're going home with a pair of tickets to see Guns N' Roses. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line to get your answers in. We will talk to you tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.